This is one like we're dunking on them now, but when you actually look into it, they'd be one of the more conservative-leaning companies in America. So they've been put on notice. I'm leaving them alone. I think you should probably do the same.
Hey, what's going on, folks? So Don Jr. and Caitlyn Jenner are calling for the end of the Bud Light Anheuser-Busch boycott. I did my research and found out that according to Open Secrets, Anheuser-Busch, the parent company for Bud Light, has been spending around $5 million a year on lobbying and close to $3 million a year on contributions, in which they donate more to Republicans than Democrats, it seems like. So we're gonna have a great conversation today about what the motives behind calling for the end of the boycott are, and if it's good to have no principles for donor money. I think you guys know the answer. Second story I want to talk about is Elon Musk says on Tucker Carlson that the government, before he bought Twitter, was accessing DMs.
The degree to which various government agencies had effectively had full access to everything that was going on Twitter blew my mind. I was not aware of that.
Would that include people's DMs?
Yes.
Which is supposed to be private messages. We'll watch that. At the end, I'm going to talk about Governor DeSantis' abortion bill, which bans abortion after 6 weeks, I believe, and a few other bonus stories. This is going to be a great show, folks. Welcome to the Dream Rare Podcast. We're live now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's live episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. I have a few stories. If you wait till the end, we're going to talk about Elon Musk saying that the government was reading people's private DMs on Twitter. Thank you, Elon, for telling us that. And then I want to talk about Ron DeSantis' 6-week abortion bill. You know, everyone's favorite topic. They're just waiting for a cisgendered male to talk about that. But no, jokes aside, the first one I want to talk about is Don Jr., Caitlyn Jenner, and several others are calling for conservatives to just kind of like lay off Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light. You know, they learned their lesson or whatever, but they're really conservative. They just, made a mistake with a marketing director. Let's take a watch.
This is one like we're dunking on them now, but when you actually look into it, they'd be one of the more conservative-leaning companies in America. So they've been put on notice. I'm leaving them alone. I think you should probably do the same.
So here's what Caitlyn Jenner said too. I'm just reading a few. She said, "It's not the best collab at all, by the way, if Dylan was even paid, which I slightly doubt. In general, I'm against boycotts. And this corporation seems pretty pro-America with some woke executives, and Donald Trump Jr. spot on." So he garnered the support of Caitlyn there. And then Matt Walsh responded, and Matt Walsh said, I'm just reading you back and forth, I thought was interesting. Jenner comes to the defense of Bud Light, a very unsurprising development. And then Caitlyn Jenner responded and said, "What an improper characterization of my support of Donald Trump Jr. and his position. The woke exec has to go. This corporation gives to our side overwhelmingly. This marketing decision was very stupid." So there lies in why they're trying to call off the boycott, because this corporation gives to our side overwhelmingly. If you don't believe me, I have it in the beginning, but I'll show you there just for those who are just joining now. I printed Open Secrets. This is Anheuser-Busch lobbying money and donations that they give, and they're ranked 102 in lobbying and 219th out of 30,000 in contributions. So long story short, they give a lot of money, right? They give in 2022, Anheuser-Busch gave $5.1 million to politicians in lobbying money. Wow. In 2021, they gave $5,040,000, and they contributed $2.965 million. So let's see who they're donating to. Who is Anheuser-Busch donating to? I'm just going to read the top 7 or 8. They gave $500,000 to National Republican Senatorial Committee. They gave around $464,000 to National Republican Congressional Committee, Save Missouri Values Republican National Committee, GoPAC, Conservative Louisiana, Show Me Values PAC, Wisconsin Truth PAC, and then a few people gave money to DNC Corp and Democrat Congressional Committee. A lot of it seems to be from individuals. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know why. I guess maybe individual workers, except for GoPAC, that seems to be 129,500. So, you know, you could look into that stuff. I guess if it's the individuals donating it, people could make the point that this has nothing to do with Anheuser-Busch. It's only the individual workers that are donating to the GOP. My guess is that that's kind of what's going on. My take on it is this, you know, Caitlyn and Don seem like very nice people. I'm just waiting for Don to unfollow me on Twitter. I appreciate his follow, but the more I talk, the less chances there's going to be of that. But, this is how politics work. And I hope that people do pay attention to this, because this is a great metaphor / symbol of who the Republican Party really is, including everybody's favorite politicians. They take donor money, they get lobbied, and then they do similar stuff. They don't really care about the values, right? Is it really about the money that they give to the Republican Party? What does it mean to pay off the Republican Party if you're going to promote Dylan Mulvaney to the masses on your beer can? And conservatives are really mad at that. And then the second that they realize that Anheuser-Busch actually helps conservatives, it's like, oh, let's stop boycotting the social things they're doing. Like, let's call it off. It's like, this is who they are. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, although some people think I might be trying to, but this is the same thing Donald Trump's done with Big Pharma, and people just want to ignore it and act like it's not true. And then they're like, why would they call off the Anheuser-Busch protests? Because they don't actually give a crap about anything. They just take money and they're like professional middlemen. Donald Trump got $1 million from Pfizer, hundreds of millions of dollars from corporations, put in a pharmacy lobbyist, and then ran around the country for 3 years selling the vaccine like it was Mike Lindell's MyPillow. And people say I'm hating. I'm not hating. I'm accurately portraying what went on. He sold out to Big Pharma. He took the lobbying money, and then he started promoting a product and a service that he probably doesn't believe in, because he's working for the lobbyists and the big interest money that paid him off. This is literally what politics is, but people want to believe it's not. It's like, hopefully this situation wakes some people off, because Don Jr. being like, yo, let's call it off, and Caitlyn being like, they overwhelmingly support us. What does support us mean? What are they doing for us? Paying off Republicans? Is that supporting us? Running America ads and selling a bunch of crappy beer to people for 20 years with, Clydesdale horses and, what I'm saying? Like that's, it's not helping me. Like, I get it. It's nice that they give Republicans money, but this is who the Republican Party is. And I just pray that people wake up, because pointing this stuff out isn't hating Don Jr. It's not transphobia against Caitlyn Jenner, and it's not hating Donald Trump. It's just how politics works. And it's weird that people haven't figured this out yet. Like, when I mentioned this, I responded to this and I said, hey, I don't remember the exact tweet, but I basically said, hey, I hope people wake up to the reality of how Republican politics work. Of course, Democrats do as well, where, the people running the party are more interested in appeasing the big money and the big corporations than they are with the values that they claim that they care so much about. That's why, in my view, they're calling off the Anheuser-Busch protests. And I said, how did people not figure this out when Donald Trump ran around the country selling the vaccine like MyPillow? And someone's like, you really got to lay off the Trump hate. You really got to stop hating him. We get it, Anomaly, but I just want to believe he got duped. And I'm thinking to myself, you believe that Trump got duped. Like, you think he's stupid. You think he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, Trump's too dumb to know that the vaccine's not that great as he says it is, and he's just fooled. So these are your two theories: that Trump is a fool, right? That's running around doing 3 years of service lying because he's just mistaken. But at the same time, you think he's the savior of the country and he's going to really weed out all the corruption. Well, it's just like a weird dynamic where I'm like, I'm not saying to hate the guy. I'm not telling you not to vote for him. But if you want to say, well, DeSantis takes lobbying money, yes, that's true. And that's a good thing to point out. And then you should question why. But then when Trump takes it, you freak out and say, you're hating. I don't understand where people think this party is going. So this is what I'll say before I wrap it up, because I could talk about this topic all day. I think Caitlyn Jenner and Don Jr., as nice as they may be, God bless them, I think this is really just a perfect symbol of who the Republican Party is. What do they stand for? Well, it depends how much money the person that is standing against them gives them. Because if they give you donor money and, support you, then I guess all of our values and societal battles go out the window. Says a lot. With that being said, this is my optimistic take. Someone said, stop drinking Anheuser-Busch. That's actually really funny. Anheuser-Busch, dude, that's good. I want to be optimistic to end this little segment. To me, I believe that the shtick that the Republican Party is doing, whether it's Trump or DeSantis, whoever wins, I personally believe it's not going to work anymore. And I'm going to explain a few things, and then I'm going to move on. In 2016, right, Trump ran against the establishment. He won. They bashed him for 3 years, Russia collusion. Everybody was rushing to Trump's defense. Also, he just got there. So nobody was like rushing Trump, on the right at least. It's like, listen, he's a victim to the persecution. You know, he needs to get his foot in the door. He's playing chess. And here's why I don't think that's going to work the next 4 years, because it makes sense for the first 4 years to be like, yo, give Don some time, give Trump some time. Let's see what he does with his term. But then when he ends with vaccine sales, he doesn't pardon Julian Assange or anybody. You know, it's like now it's like, well, I was kind of being patient with my scrutiny of Trump because I wanted to see how his 4 years went. Some people think it went amazing. Others are kind of catching on. The point that I'm getting to is the base, in my view, they want results now. Even though they like Don Jr., they're not going to allow Caitlyn Jenner and Don Jr. to just end their boycott because of like donor money and they support us. This type of shtick doesn't work like it used to. I think the Republican base is hungry. I think the Republican base wants results. And I think whether it's Don or DeSantis, I don't think they're going to be tricked as easily. But I will say this, and this has been my main concern that I've been bringing up and trying to bring into the Republican sphere is sphere. I just made it a little more exciting. When it comes to like Trump, in my view, before the indictment arresting thing or whatever, he was starting to lose in a lot of these polls I was seeing on Twitter. I'm not saying it's like official, but people were starting to get sick of like Trump not really doing that much and crying about people he hired. Like his shtick was getting kind of old, but now because of the indictment, he's up in the polls 30%. I talked to people this weekend. Some people like DeSantis, some people like Trump, but a lot of people told me like they couldn't give like a full reason. It was just like, he needs to be there. He needs to, because they're persecuting them. So this is just what I'm saying. Trump, he thrives in the victim role. He thrives in this, I'm fighting the left, I'm fighting Mitch McConnell even though we're friends, I'm fighting Paul Ryan even though we're friends, I don't hire Karl Rove even though I did. Like, you know, it's like this whole game where he just keeps saying stuff that he does and like yelling at people he hired, and like it wasn't working until the victim card came on Trump. Now all of a sudden nobody has a brain anymore. No one wants to talk about the lobbying money. He's just the victim. He's the victim. I don't think that's going to last forever. It might get him elected, and to me, that seems like the plan because he was like, didn't really have an angle until that. But anyway, you know, if he gets elected, I don't think he can run this victim shtick forever. And in fact, I think conservatives should really start to wonder if that is the plan. It's like 3 years of Russia collusion, waste our time, right? The COVID, he's the victim. The election, he's the victim. He runs people to January 6th. He didn't know. Bill Barr sucks. He didn't know. Mike Pence didn't know. Wait, you're starting to get tired of it? Well, here's this news story where he's getting arrested. Now you got to vote for him, even though you still haven't addressed any of the other issues because it doesn't matter because it's just the left. It's like all these false paradigms. So, you know, I pray people break out of that because whether it's Trump or DeSantis, I truly believe the heart of the base is a lot stronger than it used to be. So if they start to do stuff like this when they're in the second term, if he gets there, I don't think it's going to work as easy unless he can kind of like flip people with this victim narrative. That's just my opinion. Someone said Sessions. Someone said he broke your heart. He didn't break my heart, but I'm just going to put it this way and I'm going to move on. If I could point out that DeSantis took $100 million from a big donor, everyone pats me on the back and says, yeah, DeSantis is a rhino. He took donor money. Cool. If I point out that DeSantis took like, you know, tens of millions of dollars from corporations, which I don't know that he has done yet. Maybe he has in his past. He's been there for a while. People pat me on the back and they say, great job, way to fight the rhinos. If I could point out that Trump took $1 million from Pfizer and sold the country out, people are like, no, so that's the dynamic now. It's like you got people like Don and Don Jr. being like, back off Anheuser-Busch, like Johnson & Johnson's great, you know, call me Tony, me and Fauci get along, me and Newsom get along. Like Trump's the ultimate like circus character where he just keeps repeating the same things over. And some people think my feelings are hurt. My feelings aren't hurt. It's just the point that I'm trying to make is Republicans do what their donors say, including Donald Trump. And until the base realizes that, they're going to be 20 steps behind always. So I love the fact that Republicans are calling out the donor money in DeSantis. I wish they had the same energy with Trump. If not, you could expect 4 more years of failures, clown shows, blaming other people, hiring his enemies, then crying about it, telling people he gets along with Gavin Newsom better than Thomas Massie. Someone said, but you're way harder on Trump. Well, he was there for 4 years. So as far as DeSantis, if he was president for 4 years and took $100 million from mega corporations and sold the vaccine harder than Bill Gates, never admitted his mistakes, acted like a clown, If DeSantis, I would make fun of DeSantis if he hired 20 terrible people and then was like, oh, I'm a victim. Duh. I would make fun of him too. He just doesn't do that. He's a lot more quiet and pragmatic. But I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm just saying people have like Trump derangement syndrome, like it's like a religion to them. So they don't want to think that he would do what other politicians did, even though he did it. So that's why I talk about it more, because it's a more interesting angle. If DeSantis did all the stuff that Trump did, then I'll call it out the same. It's just, I wouldn't say I'm harder on him. He's just like a super clown to me. I can't really explain it. It's like, he's like, Bill Barr, so corrupt. It's like, do you see DeSantis saying that? No, because if he hired Bill Barr, I don't know, maybe he'd be like, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have hired him. Next time I'm going to hire. Trump's whole thing is like this big show. It's like a hero versus villain. It's like WWE. Is he the heel or is he the hero? If you're the left, he's the heel. He's the villain. If you're a Republican, he's the hero. People that like him still, that really want to vote for him, the main answer. I asked a lot of people this weekend about DeSantis and Trump, and it was very mixed, 50-50. I was just curious because I like to take my own polls. But when it came to Trump, the number one answer of why people wanted to vote for Trump that I heard was, he's the victim to this arrest. And it's like, that's the narrative. They don't care that he took Pfizer money. They don't care that he imploded his own election and then cried the victim about it. They don't care that all the people he's complaining about on True Social are people that he hired. They don't care that he's better friends with Gavin Newsom than Thomas Massie. They don't care that he tried to kick the only good Republican, Thomas Massie, out of the party. They don't care that he extended the lockdown. They don't care that he lies through his teeth every day. There's videos and picture tweets of Trump saying that he was responsible for the lockdown. I'm not saying it's true. He might be lying like he does a lot. But in general, he's like, I did the lockdown. Let me read the tweet for you. And I just want to ask people, before I move on to the next story, I really want to move on. I didn't want to get caught up on this. But tell me, do you think he was responsible for the lockdown, or do you think he's lying? Because I'm going to read you. This is a Trump tweet from April. He said, for the purpose of creating conflict and confusion, some in the fake news media are saying that it's the governor's decision to open up states, not that of the federal president of the United States and the federal government. Let it be fully understood that this is incorrect. It is the decision of the president, and for many good reasons. With that being said, the administration and I are working closely with governors, and this will continue. A decision by me in conjunction with input from the governors will be made shortly. So this is Trump saying, I'm making the decision to lock the country down. Personally, I think he's lying. I don't think he really had that much power. But so either he's lying and he isn't the lockdown king, or he's telling the truth and he was the lockdown king. These are things that I want to address. But when I talk to people that like and want to vote for him, they don't think about any of this stuff. They just say, I need to vote for him because he's the victim of this news story I heard about 3 weeks ago. And if Alvin Bragg wants to arrest him, I mean, it must mean he's a good guy. You get what I'm saying? It's like there's no intent into where it's going, where it's just like a big show. But I'm just going to say, let's end the segment on this, and I have other stuff to talk about. I'm not looking to hold people's mistakes forever over their heads. Everybody has everybody sins, everybody has flaws, everybody makes mistakes. But the point is to learn from your mistakes and tell the truth about them. It's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. It's not a big deal. My point is this. With the Don Jr. and the Caitlyn Jenner situation, this is the only reason I'm talking about it. They're telling people specifically to stop boycotting Anheuser-Busch because they work with Republicans more than Democrats. Translation, the corporations and probably the donor money is more towards Republicans than Democrats. So your values only matter so much that the company that's pushing the values against you doesn't donate. I'm trying to show people that whether it's Trump, whether it's DeSantis, whether it's all these other Republicans, Mitch McConnell, I know you want to separate them, and some have done a better job than others, but the truth is they work for their donors. Trump proved that with Big Pharma. They're proving it now with Anheuser-Busch, and it's going to continue to go that way. So you can go two routes. You can either act like this is a WWE circus, accomplish nothing, end in a vaccine sale, play the victim for the rest of your life, or you can actually get results. I think the conservative base wants results. I'm going to be optimistic and say they're going to get results. It's not about hating or hold someone's mistakes together, but if there's a CEO who hired 30 bad people and said, listen, I hired terribly, I should have hired better, then I'm going to be like, oh, he learned his lesson. But if I see the guy complain every day, tripping over his own feet about the stuff he did and constantly lying about it and accusing others of things that he himself did, I don't trust the person. I think you're a darn fool if you trust Donald Trump, but if you do, America likes a good show, so enjoy the show. And next time in a year, 2 years, when stuff like this happens, you can run back and be like, yo, I see it now. Because either I'm telling the truth or I'm not. So as time goes on, we'll see what happens. But I think the conservative base needs to hold their ground and let Trump, DeSantis, and all these people know that they're supposed to work for you, not the people who give them hundreds of millions of dollars, because they're both going to take hundreds of millions of dollars from people. And in return, those hundreds of millions of dollars are going to go against your values. That's how politics works. What part of this Anheuser-Busch story do you not understand? What part of the lockdown and Trump running around selling a vaccine like a MyPillow do you not understand? I know people are so delusional that they want to say he did that because he made a mistake. So you're basically saying he's stupid and he made a mistake. I don't think he made a mistake. I think that's how politics work. He took the money from Pfizer. He took the money from Big Pharma. He hired a bunch of Big Pharma people, and then he worked for the people that he hired. Trump works with Big Pharma. Get over it. No, you don't want to believe that. You want to believe he's the pseudo wizard who just made mistakes all the time. You can't accept the fact that he also takes lobbying money. He takes Sheldon Adelson money. He takes Bank of America money. You can't accept that you can't tell yourself the truth, so you have to lie to yourself. You're no different than a Comic-Con person dressing up as Pikachu, except instead of having fun harmlessly like a child, you're destroying the country and playing into the uniparty false paradigm and ruining the country for future generations. Wake up to reality or constantly get scammed on loop. It's like all you need for conservatives, not trying to be rude, just give them a friendly face and lie to them, and conservatives love it. There's no reason for the GOP, unless we do what we're doing with this Anheuser-Busch thing and saying, listen, we're not backing off of the boycott just because you want us to for donors. Then we're going to see success. If not, if people just want Ronald Reagan smiling at them or George Bush waving an American flag or Donald Trump selling a vaccine, if that's what you want, don't play the victim. You're not the victim to the left. You're not the victim to the Democratic Party. You're not this massive victim of things. Your president signs a bill called the CARES Act that destroys the country and gives Democrats funding all year. And then the election screwed up because Trump signed a socialist communist scam bill that printed too much money and gave too much corruption to the states. And then he cries the victims, wails his hands, and then leads his people into a Fed trap at the Capitol. And you just never learn a lesson. You want to do this 15 more times? Yeah, it's everyone else's fault. No, it's your fault. Be a stronger base, care about the values you claim to care about, stand up strong to the Republican Party, and that includes Donald Trump. If you do that, this country has a lot of success. If not, you're no different than the left. You're just useful idiot number 2. They're useful idiot number 1. They're going to run you in circles with fake plots and fake stories and act like characters, and you're going to get angry at me and cry. All I'm saying is if that's the game people are going to play, just stop acting like you're the victim. You're in on it. It's your fault. This country doesn't deserve to get better with a bunch of foolish people. We need to earn our rise to make America great again, not just fall over each other's faces and blame, transgender like Bud Light ads. With that being said, let's move to the second story, which is Elon Musk. He dropped the bombshell that the government was using Twitter DMs, according to him, and spying on your private messages. So if you have private messages on Twitter or even other social media, I guess we could just assume that the government is reading the ones they want to read. Let's take a look.
The degree to which various government agencies had effectively had full access to everything that was going on Twitter blew my mind. I was not aware of that.
Would that include people's DMs?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if this has ever been official before this. I just kind of assume that. I mean, it's not a good thing. Some things have encoding and special, they have like special privacy stuff, but I try to, I'm not like a perfect person. I like to have fun and talk to people, etc. But I try to just assume that I'm being listened to at all times. I mean, it sucks. It's not like I'm not a paranoid person. I'm not freaking out. But especially with what I do and in general, just the way the country is, I just assume everyone's recording me. Everything's being screenshotted. I mean, it sucks to live that way. I don't have privacy, but I'm just not lying about it. It's like, I'm not a perfect person. It's not like I never made a mistake or told a joke that someone might not like, but that's just what I assume. I just assume they're reading everything. And, it's like, it sucks, but I felt this way for years. And especially when I do what I do and I've seen what I've seen, I know that they're somewhat targeting me because that's become apparent to me. And I'm not crying the victim. I'm not afraid. I'm not asking everybody to give me sympathy. I'm aware that certain government agencies and certain government people are watching me. I know that. It's not even debatable at this point. It just is what it is. I'm not afraid. I'm not backing down. I think I'm a good person. I'm a law-abiding citizen, so I don't have anything to worry about. But this is the reality. I know people like to believe that we have privacy and it would be nice. I think there are some places that you could probably still maybe have it, but when it comes to Twitter DMs, thank you, Elon Musk, for at least admitting that, because I think this has been kind of thought about, but no one's really said it with the authority and proof that Elon probably has. With that being said, I mean, I just wish, and this is the thing, I don't know if there's any government agents watching this. It's just like, a lot of people just want to live their lives, start a family, work, whatever. Some people don't want to start a family, but a lot of people do. Like, most people are good people in this country, and they just want to think that the government cares about them. But, I don't know who's really running the show there. I have my ideas. Things don't seem like you like Americans. Things don't seem like you like Christians. Things definitely don't seem like you like conservatives. And everything's getting really, really gay. Like, so gay, it's unnecessary. Like, things are getting so gay that, like, you could find, like, a drag queen from San Francisco, and even they're like, yo, this is getting too gay for me. Like, this is kind of crazy. It's like, it's just, like, so much propaganda, so much over-sexualization of children, so much over-sexualization of, like, military. Like, everything's got to have a flag. It's like, it's just jamming stuff in our face all the time, and it's annoying. And it's like every model's got to be fat. It's like, that's so great. It's like, whatever, if that's what you guys want to do, or whoever's calling the shots, I guess you can, but don't expect people to like you. That's all I'm going to say, and with the whole lockdown stuff, this is really annoying to me, but it is what it is. When the government locked down, whoever it was, governors, president, whoever you want to blame for the lockdown, when they did that, there was no compassion whatsoever for the American people. None. No compassion. If they cared, which we know they don't, but I think in their heads, they think they're doing like a really good job, and it's a hard job. But like, if you even gave a single shit about the American people, when you locked them down for 2 months, you would have had a little empathy, compassion, like, hey, we're screwing over these people's lives. We're like, mentally damaging their kids. Everybody's getting fatter. People are getting more paranoid. They're stuck inside. They're not getting airflow, which, by the way, is terrible for your health. You guys know that, right? If there's any like government people or left-wing corporations or whoever was in on the lockdowns, you guys know, like, you hurt people, right? You probably killed and hurt more people than you helped. I just want to be upfront with that, because I'm tired of like we saved so many lives. You didn't save lives, okay? You killed people, okay? You made them fatter. You made them less healthy. You shoved them in a house, especially poor people that don't have like well-ventilated houses. It's terrible for your health. What you guys did was terrible, evil, horrible. You get what I'm saying? Just admit that. It was a disaster, the lockdown. With that being said, no compassion whatsoever. In fact, with that weird Gretchen Whitmer plot, it was like you were trying to basically go out on a limb and demonize anybody who was against the protests and against lockdowns. So when the government and the corporations do stuff like that, I'm not someone that's like anti-government, anti-this, like I hate everyone. I play my role. I'm in my lane. You know what I'm saying? There's bad people in the government. There's bad people down the street. There's bad people who work at Starbucks. There's good and bad people everywhere. I'm not one of these extreme type people, but I don't think the government likes me, and I don't think major corporations like me. In fact, I know they don't, just because of how they operate. I'm not saying there's no good people there at some of these corporations or government, but the fact that you had a federal agency basically trying to demonize every protest and set people up. And basically that was then used by the media to be like, anybody who protests a lockdown, like, you're basically treating people like slaves, prisoners, animals, second-tier citizens who got captured by like a foreign country and they're getting tortured. You tortured humanity. You tortured all these Americans. All I'm asking for is, if you're torturing a bunch of people, which is evil anyway, but even if you're going to do it, which I don't agree with, have a little bit of sympathy and compassion for the people. Show a little bit of love to the people locked in the house. Don't treat them like they're all criminals for the crime of wanting to go out, breathe air, and do sports and stuff. So, just a little note. I don't know if anyone gives a crap, but if you really want people to stop hating you, stop doing stuff like that. Because when you spy on people's DMs, etc., nobody trusts you. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm glad, like, this isn't like the Iraq-Afghanistan war anymore, where it's like, oh, I trust the government, I want to sign the Patriot Act. Like, that sentiment's completely gone. So I don't know anybody who thinks, oh, they're really doing a good job. Like, I can't even think of like very many success stories of when this spying really led to like a huge arrest. Maybe there are some, but it's like you're overreaching everything. You're locking people in their house. You're spying on their DMs. You're strong-arming social media companies to look at what they're doing. Maybe you could justify that you think you're doing a good job or whatever, but it's just like, it's hard to imagine that you care about us. I don't think so, but who knows? $50 super chat. Thank you so much. He said, Prince of the Cat said, go back to Trump propaganda. What happened to all the money raised, $100 million from the 2020 election to pay for lawyers? Any thoughts? I'll do it at the end because I don't want to go back to it now, but honestly, I don't know where all that money went. Cernovich talks about it a lot. I mean, he always brings up that Trump raised hundreds of millions of dollars for the January 6th, like lawyers or whatever, the election lawyers. Here's the thing with Trump. A lot of people care, a lot of people don't. It doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter where his money goes. Like he's a victim, so no one cares. It's like he cries about the election, but then Mike Lindell says that he's mad at DeSantis for winning Florida. It's like, Trump cries about the election, but he's so petty that he's laughing that the Wisconsin Republican lost the Supreme Court election because the Wisconsin Republican didn't want Trump's endorsement, but that seat is going to affect the election. So to me, at least, I don't think Trump really gives a shit about anything, but if people want to believe that he secretly really cares or something, it's like, to make a long story short, I have no idea where all that money that Trump raised went, but here's the thing, nobody cares. His support base doesn't care. Trump could take $100 million, wipe his ass with it, and send it to Pfizer, and his biggest supporters would still be like, well, maybe he just got fooled. Maybe that's a secret plan. There's no reason for Trump to stop raising money and playing the victim. Keep doing it, bro. Every time he gets arrested, he gets money. People I don't know. Where did that money go? No one cares. He could have threw it in a fireplace and people would blame someone else. No Chance said, will you consider going on Pat Bett's show Valuetainment? He has too many subpar grifters that don't like nuanced opinions like yours. God bless with a super chat. I don't want to reveal too much, but let's just say Patrick has been talking to me, basically trying to hire me. I guess I just said, but he wants me to work for their media company. So let's just say we've been talking for a minute, but I don't know if it's going to work out or not. Probably not at this point, but maybe. I'd love to go on the podcast. I would love to partner if it made sense, if the deal made sense. But yeah, if I don't do it, then I would love to be on the podcast. So we'll see. When they reelected Ronna McDaniel to lead, I know they have zero intentions of winning in 2024. Said Westfield with the super chat. Here's what I want to say about that. And I'm trying to not sound like hateful because I know sometimes I do sound a little like petty, you know what I'm saying? And like annoying. I get it. I'm self-aware. But it's just like hard for people to imagine because they want so bad there to be a hero in politics. But I agree with you. They rehired Ronna McDaniel, who's a Romney. Trump backed Kevin McCarthy, and so did Marjorie Taylor Greene because she just follows what Trump does. It's like they're not really that serious about it, but why should they be when people don't care? Politics and Republicans are going to put the guy that can convince people that they're so different. They're going to keep picking that person. So if Trump can convince people that he's so different and when he hires Ronna McDaniel, it doesn't matter, or when he works with McCarthy, it doesn't matter. Like if he can convince people that, why wouldn't they want to go with him? At least if he wins, it's like whatever. So I understand that certain people want him to win and certain people don't, but the future of the Republican Party and the country is in the hands of the Republican base. Like I don't understand it. I've talked about it a lot. I don't want to be repetitive, but I don't think when it comes to Trump, and I'm not talking about everybody because there's a lot of people that are not like this, but I don't actually think anybody has any morals or values. They just like Trump more than they like their own opinions. This is just my opinion, but when it comes to the McCarthy stuff and the Ronna McDaniel stuff, look at how Republicans treated everybody who supported them, but they'll never say anything about Trump when he does it. The way they talk about DeSantis with the donor money and Karl Rove, it's not a bad thing. I'm fine with that. I'm not like a Karl Rove or Paul Ryan fan, but when Trump does it, they don't care. You get what I'm saying? So it's like when Trump says, Paul Ryan's great. We're all with you, Paul. You did a fantastic job after the term. Nobody questions it. When Trump's campaign team hires Karl Rove for 2020, nobody cares. They only care when DeSantis does it. So this is why I asked the question, do you really care or do you just like Trump? Do you care about the Second Amendment? Because I could show you 5 clips of Trump saying, take the guns first and put them to court second. If DeSantis said, take the guns first and go to court second, his chances would be over. They might be over already, but it's like, if any Republican said that, they could never be president. But when Trump says, take the guns first and go to court second, no one wants to talk about it. So he has like this spell over people. I don't mind that they like him a lot, but I'm just pointing out the truth of like, do you actually care about the First Amendment? Do you care about Second Amendment? Do you care about socialism? Or do you just like Trump? Because if you just like Trump, there's nothing wrong with it. That's your thing. I get it where it's like, let's talk about Don Jr. and all this stuff that I was talking about before real quick. I saw Andrew Tate's brother, I forget his first name, but Talisman Tate on Twitter. He likes, Don Jr., so he came to Don Jr.'s defense and he said, hey, I don't agree with this, but basically he said, maybe Don Jr.'s just saying like it's capitalism or whatever. And here's all I'm going to say. Don seems like a nice guy, but if Republicans really cared about capitalism, then Tristan Tate, exactly, thank you. If it was really just like, oh, it's a capitalist thing, Anheuser-Busch is a good capitalist, then every Republican would be up in arms that Donald Trump and the Republican Party gave $16 billion for Operation Warp Speed, and the entire vaccine rollout, even without the mandates, it's all socialism, right? Mandates are one part of it, but people say, well, he didn't mandate it. Well, that doesn't make socialism good. I bet Karl Marx didn't want to mandate everything, but eventually it'll get that way if you give enough money to the corporations. There was nothing capitalist about Operation Warp Speed. It was 100% socialist. So here's the point that I'm trying to make. I had an interview recently, it's going to come out, with somebody where he likes Trump a lot. And, they don't want to really talk about this. So all I say is just be honest about it. Don't tell me you hate socialism, but then when, Republicans do socialism, you don't want to talk about it. Don't tell me, the Second Amendment's your line in the sand, and then Trump says take the guns first, and then we'll go after it second, and you don't want to talk about it. Just be honest. I'm not like, I have friends that like Bernie Sanders, so just be honest. Be like, I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a First Amendment guy. I'm not a Second Amendment guy. I'm a Trump guy. When Trump is in office, I don't care about anything. I don't care about lobbying money. I don't care about the Second Amendment. I'll make excuses for it. I'll fantasize fake plots about how he was trying to save the world by giving Big Pharma all the money. Just be totally honest about it. So, it's funny when things like this happen because everyone's trying to justify it. Like maybe he likes capitalism. Well, I don't think so, because when they go full Communist Manifesto, no one wants to talk about it. Just that's where we're at now. So the idolization of Trump, even though he's done a lot, is going to destroy the party because it's like only he could get away with this type of stuff. I'm going to play the clips in another segment where he's talking about taking the guns first and then going to court second. There's like 10 clips like that where to be honest, I hadn't even seen them until recently because I liked Trump so much for so long that honestly, I ignored all that stuff. I didn't see it. No one brought it to my attention. And probably if I saw it, I would have been like people that I'm talking about now. I probably would have made excuses for it or been like, let's see what he does. But this is my personal take, is like when it comes to Trump's 4 years, I wanted to let him live out his entire first term. So I'm like, let me see what, at the end of your term, it really shows your character. So even if with the COVID stuff, like to me, I thought Trump would do more. I thought he'd release some files, not just like bail Jared Kushner's dad out of jail and some Democrat criminal and some Israeli spy. Like I thought he might like pardon Julian Assange or, I thought he might like do something really cool, but instead he let his supporters buy a mistake to a Fed trap or whatever. I don't know. I was kind of optimistic to be like, maybe he'll do something really cool at the end. And then after his presidency, I still gave him the benefit of the doubt because I'm like, let's see, now that he's a private citizen, let's see what he does. He's on Newsmax. He's on Fox News. He's a private citizen again. Let's see what truth he has for the American people. Let's see what he can reveal now that he's out of office. And Donald Trump actually got worse when he got out of office. He just extended his little Pfizer lobbying scheme and ran around Newsmax, Fox News, saying the vaccine's so great, it saved 100 million lives. It's the greatest human achievement. Johnson & Johnson's amazing. Moderna, Pfizer. I'm the vaccine guy. I rushed it. And he became worse. It's like his true character showed, and he wasn't the guy I thought he was. And then it got weird, and this is where it almost turns into, I'm not trying to be rude, but it almost turns into like a mental illness. Like everyone says like the left's mentally ill. So are some people on the right now. I'm not trying to be rude. I understand mental illness is not to be joked about, but millions of people will be like, oh, the left is like mental illness. And it's like, kinda. Now, the number one theory is that Trump gave Big Pharma $16 billion, hired a pharmacy lobbyist, locked the country down, rushed vaccines to reopen the lockdown before 10 years. And it doesn't even make any sense because rushing the vaccine didn't end the lockdowns in a lot of states. And also, everything they told you they'd give you off of the vaccine, they just took away in 2 weeks. And then also, rushing the vaccine actually helps Big Pharma because there's something called the PrEP Act, and they have a liability shield, which they're now, I'll do another report about this, they're extending till 2023 or 2024, I think 2024. So rushing it only helps Big Pharma. And because people like Trump so much, instead of being like, listen, I like him, but him doing socialism for Big Pharma is not a good thing. And him rushing this out so they get a lot of money is not a good thing. People are mentally ill that like Trump now and saying like, maybe he did this to save the world. Oh yeah, he hired a Eli Lilly executive to save the world. Do you think he hired Mitch McConnell's wife to save the world? That's a 5D chess move, him running the transportation. It's like, dude, people are like brainwashed by the guy. It's like, I'm not telling you not to vote for him. I'm not telling you not to like him. But the fact that you just can't imagine that he did something you didn't want, it's a mental illness. It's like, okay, I like Trump, but I don't agree with the bump stock laws. That's normal. Saying, I like Trump, but I'm going to hallucinate a theory that he's saving the world with big pharma socialism because I don't want to admit that he actually did me dirty. That's mental illness. Like, people are losing their minds over this guy. I don't care if you like him. I don't care if you vote for him. But if you're, it's like people have no problem being like, hey, I like Trump, but I don't agree with the bump stock ban. Makes sense. Nothing wrong with that. But saying I like him, so I'm not going to admit what he did because I just don't want to believe it because it's too evil for me to even fathom, you're losing your mind. It's like, and people are doing it so often that they actually believe themselves. It's like telling a lie a million times and everyone just keeps telling it. So everybody thinks it's true because they just keep hearing it on all their favorite Republican podcasts, but it's never been true and it can't hold up to the scrutiny. And if they ever debated me or had a conversation, they'd look like idiots because it's like me saying that, Hillary Clinton, got hired by Obama because secretly she had to like dig for gold in Venezuela and save the world, but you've never heard about it. It's like, where's your source? Like, I don't have one. It's just like the excuse I make because I want to believe that this is something it's not. It's like, it's that crazy. Someone said, dude, you're obsessed. Talk about something else. Well, I will, because I actually have another story. Thanks everybody who's here, by the way. The third story I wanted to talk about, I'm glad I kind of waited too long because thank you, Richard Wayne, appreciate you. I wanted to talk abortion, right? Because people look at me in the street and they say, what do you think about abortion? And I'm like, and then I pull out I'm just kidding. People don't do that. I'm probably not the, top person that people even care about my opinion, but it's my show, so I'm going to do it anyway. DeSantis passed some sort of legislation or bill that stops people from aborting people in Florida for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, I believe it's like called a heartbeat bill, or that's the terminology they're using, because after 6 weeks, allegedly the baby has a heartbeat, and they're just trying to say once it has a heartbeat, you can't axe it or whatever they do. I'm going to talk about a specific interaction I had, and then I'll talk about my opinion. I saw Kim Iverson on Twitter, who got ratioed. Nice lady, in her 40s. I don't know if she's single or not. I tried to look it up, not because I'm trying to date her, just because like she's childless. She's crying about this. And I'm not trying to dunk on the lady because, I'm sure that's by choice. I'm just saying in general, she's like, well, I was going to move to Florida. She's like an independent journalist. She works with Rumble. She's one of the better left wingers. I like Kim Iverson. But anyway, she's like, I was going to move to Florida, but now I'm not going to move to Florida. And I'm like, you're in your 40s, you're childless. Like, how does this even affect you? I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, you're not going to move to Florida because you can't abort a baby after a heartbeat and you're in your 40s and childless. Like, how is that the deciding factor? Like, now I'm not going to go. It's like, okay, then don't come. I don't think anybody's going to care. With that being said, people started asking her, where do you draw the line, right? I understand this is a complex issue. Where do you draw the line? And she said the government should stay out of it. So this is my question to the Kim Iversons of the world. When you say the government should stay out of it, are you an anarchist? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about a human life. And I get that this is controversial, and I get that it's hard to pick a point for some people. But in general, she says she thinks people ask, how long do you want to wait for abortions or the death? I want the government to stay out of it. All right, Kim. So this is, okay, mid-birth? Is mid-birth okay? Right before birth, like 5 seconds before the baby could be out, and breathe. After birth, you want to pull a Casey Anthony and just toss him in the can. Well, no. Oh no, I don't want after. Well, I'm just saying you have to draw the line somewhere. So if you're going to say the government stays out of it, then we could just say murder's legal, which it's not. I'm just using a hypothetical. Like, no. So where? You got to draw the line. Mid-birth. After birth, before birth, when do you draw the line? She says no line. And she's not moving to Florida, even though she hasn't, okay. So with that being said too, when it comes to like a heartbeat, to me, that sounds pretty reasonable, but I guess to some people they don't. But here's where I think the left has gotten exposed is when these conversations come up, I listen to their logic, and I'm going to give you a few things that I've heard over days, because I have friends that are pro life. And, I've had conversations about this with men and women. And here's one thing that I've heard, and I started reading online. Someone said, and this has been the second time this happened to me. They said, Anomaly, I want to abort my kid because if it has a disability, it's really difficult to raise a kid with a disability. So I want the option to abort the kid if it has a disability because I don't feel like raising it. And I've also heard this in general that because of the technology they have, I don't know what week it's at, but at a certain point, if you go to the right doctor or lab, you can study your baby. And if it's not perfect, you could just throw it away and try to get a perfect one. That's what's going on in this world now. So I understand where people are coming from. I'm going to play both sides of it. On one hand, I get it. It is hard to raise somebody with severe disabilities. It's rough. It's rough on the parents. It's rough on everyone. So do you just want to kill the kid? And then people are like, no. I'm like, well, if it has a heart, I was like, you could terminate it in the womb. And then it's basically it's just I don't want to talk like that. And it's but that's what's happening. So however you want to phrase it, you want to dispose of the kid because he has a disability and you want to go get a new one. And when I say stuff like that, it makes people uncomfortable, but it's just I'm not being rude. I'm just trying to that is what you're doing. Is it not? You're get rid of that heartbeat. I want a new one that's not disabled. Just say it and then see if you still think it's the right thing. Same with here's another thing. I'm not saying you could decide the world's a crazy place. Some, I think animals in the wild, it's they don't care about some of their kids. It's dog eat dog type of world where, that's just how the wild is. Americans and humans are very domesticated. We're a very domesticated species, the most domesticated, perhaps maybe dogs more, but probably not. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, most animals are wild, and in the wild, they don't follow the rules that humans are following. It's they might just sacrifice their kid. Sometimes they don't. Some animals love their kids, but sometimes they're yo, we gotta go. They snatch up some, leave some. The wild's a crazy place. So to the the people that say they don't want disabled kids, this is, and some people are calling it abortion, a eugenics or whatever, but in general, it's do you want that to be how humans are? Do you think that people should be able to Casey Anthony their kids? If their kid comes out disabled and they didn't check, do you want them just to throw that kid in a garbage can or something and be well, that's how we're going to be like animals in the wild, and just, if our kid's not performing enough, we're just going to throw it out. Most people would say no, they don't agree with that, but the reason I'm saying that is that's kind of what's going on here. You're geoengineering, the perfect child. And if you're, looking at the stuff of it after, say you look at 10 weeks and it seems like it's going to have this, you're going to kill it and get a new one. That's just what's happening. So this is why, and I say this to the left because I understand this is a complex issue. Most people are like Kim Iverson where they don't have a line. It's okay, heartbeat seems a lot of Christians think it's at conception. The second conception happens, it's a kid, and you can't get rid of it. To me, heartbeat is a compromise for Christians. It's saying, listen, we're not going to give you conception. We're going to give you 6 weeks, and we're going to give you a heartbeat. Once it's at 6 weeks, once it has a heartbeat, you can't do it anymore. And Democrats still complain. So that's my question to these people is, where is the line? And 9 times out of 10, they have no line, right? So it's if you could tell me, well, 6 weeks doesn't make sense, but 12 weeks would make sense because I want to be able to look if my kid's disabled and then kill it. I'm not saying that's a good thing to do, but I would semi-respect your answer a little more, even though that's kind of, in my opinion, messed up. It'd be well, at least you gave me an answer, but the Kim Iversons of the world, no offense, childless, in her 40s, oh, I don't want to move to Florida because I can't abort my kid. What kid? You don't have a kid. How does that even apply to you, really? Does it? Is that your thing? There's other ways to not have a kid. So you're not going to move to Florida because they won't let you, axe a 6-week-year-old heartbeat? Okay. So where is your line? She has no line. Most of these people have no line, and I'm not trying to be rude, but it's something to think about. We need to have an adult conversation because everything needs a line. And this kind of breaks the false left-right paradigm because I know there's, better options, et cetera. But it's freedom is good, but discipline makes a man great. And I like to push this point because it's really true. Everyone in the right wing talks about freedom, 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 but they don't fully really mean it. And the left points it out and they're like, well, you say you're free, but you're not pro-choice because you won't let me kill my heartbeat. And then, but you won't let me be free because you won't make me wear a mask. And the truth is, freedom is important from government tyranny. Freedom is important from stress and anger. I think freedom from sin is important. If you're free from the expectations of society, that's beautiful. Being free is great. But the truth is, being free doesn't make you a good person. Being free makes you a terrible person. Being disciplined makes a man great. Being disciplined makes somebody successful. So it's not the freedom. You have to close the line somewhere in your life, or else you're going to be a loser. So this is where Republicans are kind of hypocrites, because they talk about freedom, 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 but they don't really mean it. True freedom would mean anarchy. And there are libertarians that are anarchists, and no offense, I disagree with that also. It's an interesting concept, but eventually I don't think it's really the right play. I think certain lines need to be drawn. I'm a nice guy, but if I have a crackhead laying on my floor, I'm not going to say, hey, I guess you're free to stay here. I guess I can't do anything about it. I'm going to kick their ass out of my house. You get what I'm saying? You're not free to do that. You're not free to shit on a public park. You are in San Francisco, but in a normal society that's not degenerate, you're not. So everybody wants some sort of discipline. The question is where to draw the line. And when it comes to a human life or theft, etc., I do like a pretty hard line, because it's like, I do think murdering is evil. I think it's evil to steal. I understand, like, if you're a kid or something, I have compassion for low level stuff, high level stuff, making multiple mistakes. I do think, like, if you steal high level stuff like 3 times, it's like, at a certain point you need to go to jail. You can't be too easy on someone that can't get their life together. But in general, this is the conversation of freedom versus discipline. Thank you, Holly. Appreciate you so much. Thanks for the super chat saying I'm making a difference. And this is the reality of how this debate goes. The left doesn't draw lines anymore. The right draws lines and then moves the line and towards the left, or sometimes they move it towards the right. The left is incapable of drawing a line. Like, draw your line. If it's not a heartbeat, what is it? 10 weeks? It's not 10 weeks. It's 12 weeks. It's 16 weeks. It's 20 weeks. It's like, draw a line. It's not for it's for the doctor and their thing to decide. It's not the government, but you also force masks. I get the hypocrisy of both sides, but at the end of the day, when it comes to murder, it's a baby becoming a thing. There needs to be a line drawn, unless we want to live in a society where people can just axe each other in the heads like 6 months after their kid's born because their kid's disabled. Like, it sounds extreme, but it's like the line does need to be drawn, and it needs to be aggressive. I think everybody wants a perfect society. They want to say, oh, I want to be able to abort my kids or something. I mean, I'm not saying that's perfect, but I want to be able to abort my kids and live in Florida. Well, you can't. So now, Kim Iverson, figure out where you want to go. If taking a heartbeat and ending the heartbeat is like the most important thing to you, you can move to California. You can move to a Democrat state. Like, this is time for humans to feel a little uncomfortable and get priorities together. So for these people that are like, I like conservatives and freedoms, but I don't agree with an abortion ban, well, then go find a place where you could take a heartbeat and end the heartbeat and tell yourself that was the most important thing to you. If it's important to you, they have Democrat states for it. If it's not, if you'd rather live in a society that has low taxes and better policy, then you move to a red state. It's time for people to feel uncomfortable, because you're not going to get everything you want. And in general, every time the right wing draws a line somewhere, people cry and they're like, well, that's too far. Then, go live in the woods or something and try to start an anarchy commune, or go live in California and live in commie world and, pay higher taxes. And, there's like, I can move at any time if things really, if California passed a law that really pushed so far that I'm like, I got to go, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to a red state. I mean, I'm going to end up there eventually anyway. But you get what I'm saying. So let's see what happens. But I don't know. I know this is a wedge issue. It might not be good for elections or something, but at a certain point, things are going to get uncomfortable, and people are going to have to decide. Like, do you want to live in Los Angeles? Do you want to live in San Francisco? What do you value more? Crime, theft, safety, freedom of, against these policies, job security, a place where you could raise your kids, or do you want the option to abort? Like, I understand some people wish they could have both. You can't. So to me, I like the fact that the different parties are moving further away in some ways, not because it's a great thing for the country, but right wingers can't just be left wing light forever. And there's going to have to be places that are able to keep out the degeneracy. Sometimes you got to draw a line. That's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about any of the topics. Someone said you obviously don't read the Bible. Anomaly. I don't know what part you were telling me about. I'm not pro-abortion at this point in my life, just to be clear. I don't know. I'm just trying to have a conversation about it. I'm not for it. I'm pro-life. I wasn't always that way. I get it now. I don't know if this is too much information, but I've lived my life differently. I'm not perfect. I still have sin and flaw. I'm not trying to act holier than thou, but I have a different view on life. When I was younger, I used to think condoms were the only way to stop you from having a baby. Now I just don't have sex because I don't want to have a baby out of wedlock. So, when you put your thing in a girl's thing that makes a baby, you could make a baby. So, I'm pro-life, but I also live by what I stand, where I'm not out here nutting in a bunch of women and giving them pills and trying to put something over. I'm not having sex because I don't want a kid. That I truly feel that way. So freedom and free will surely are different. Someone said pro-choice women are the perfect example of people who think have a higher power to kill their child over God himself, said Frank. Thank you, Frank. But it's like, I understand why people feel the way they feel. The reason that I was kind of like playing both sides of it is because I want to explain, even at my most compassionate angle of like, I understand how hard it is to raise a disabled child. I understand that. But I'm framing it differently because sometimes it's like if you close your eyes and do it in the shadows, you're like, oh, I just did it this way. But, after a certain week, I don't know, like there is a heartbeat. And I know it's not something I would ever want to go through. It's not something that I want someone else to go through. I know it's a traumatic experience. Everybody makes mistakes. Some people have made even worse mistakes in their life. And, I'm not trying to haunt everybody's decisions that they made, man or women. But at the end of the day, it's like if you want the option to throw away a heartbeat because it's disabled, just say that. That's the point that I'm saying. Say that. Say, I want to throw this heartbeat away because it's disabled and I want a non-disabled heartbeat. It doesn't sound good when you say it that way, right? It doesn't. But it might be true, though. So you get what I'm saying? It's like, if Kim Iverson doesn't want to draw a line, she's kind of a psychopath. And I'm not trying to be rude. She's a nice lady. She does good work. She's one of the better left-wingers on a lot of war topics, etc. But like, you don't have a line you could draw, then you're not a serious person. Because if you say, I want the government to stay out of it, what does that mean? The government says murder's illegal. Do you want murder to be legal? She'll say no. So where do you draw the line? Because at a certain point, that's going to break through. And she might say, well, once the baby's out, then, I don't want it to die. But what if they're halfway through birth? You have to draw the line somewhere. You're going to draw it at life. So what? What if it's, and this is a messed up conversation, but it's like, where is the line? Halfway through birth, a quarter through birth, no birth, like, the thing breaking, the water breaking, like you got to pick a line, even if you're Kim Iverson. You have the right to feel that. Where's your line? Well, the government has to stay out of it. So you're fine with killing kids. No. Once they're out. So what if they're halfway out? I don't know. What's your line? A quarter of the way out. Not out, but about to be out in 5 minutes. I would guess that she'd be fine if it was going to be out in like 2 minutes. I don't know. It's just an interesting topic, not one that's like really fun to talk about, but that's what I've noticed with certain like people on the left is they just don't have a line. So it's why the Republicans are the adults in the room. It doesn't mean they're right about everything. It doesn't mean that they're the most moral people in the world, but Republicans at least pretend to have a line and try to draw some sort of line. And if you want your society to function and be somewhat moral, you have to draw a line. You just have to. This is the example that I use a lot, but as much as I obviously I like freedom from tyranny. I think people deserve the right to say what they want. These systems have been proven, like, having the government shut down speech and innovation, it doesn't work. I don't think it's a good strategy. So I lean libertarian for sure, but I'm not a complete libertarian. I do believe in some conservative Christian values as well. I'm somewhere between a Republican and a libertarian, but I'm not either one of them. And the Republican Party, in my opinion, is a corporate socialist scam pretending to be your best friend. With that being said, everything in life, you have to draw some sort of line. If you want to be strong, you got to draw a line at what you eat and how you work out. You can't just eat everything, do everything. That's just not how it works. If you want great results, you got to do great things, and you have to draw your own personal line. It's an interesting convo, but someone said you don't treat trauma with trauma. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I agree. Someone said both parties are fake. Strong agree. Mama said, I don't believe in killing babies. There is no line, don't kill, thou shalt not kill. Well, I guess here's what I'm trying to say. I agree with you completely. But if and maybe they haven't thought about it. This is also like left wingers aren't often challenged in some ways, and when they are, it's like extreme. Where, at the end of the day, I think a lot of them don't want to kill babies either. It's just a conversation about when it's a baby. But to me, a heartbeat sounds like a compromise. I think that's Christians going further than they want to go in pro-choice ways. And Democrats say it's not good. It's not good. And to me, this is a lesson learned of how Democrats are playing themselves and how conservatives should operate. The truth is, they're not operating in reality. So you can't really compromise with them. So I think Republicans are figuring this out, and they're just doing more stuff they want to do. Because if you want to compromise on a kid, but you can't draw a single line, you don't want to compromise. There's no 8 weeks, 10 weeks. No. They don't want to compromise. So why, if you're a Christian and a conservative, why wouldn't you draw the line further? Because they're never going to give you credit. And this was one of my pet peeves when Trump would do stuff. People would say, oh, well, he had to do that to appease the left. And I'm like, listen, I'm not telling you that you can't like that he made a mistake or whatever, but stop acting like Trump can please the left. You get what I'm saying? This was the most cringe excuse from people on the right. They'd be like, he had to do the vaccines. The left would have said he killed people. Bro, they say he kills people all the time. Where have you been? They say the border's like Hitler. He's killed every COVID death's Trump's fault until Biden gets in. Now it's not his fault. You're delusional if you think that pleasing the left you can't please them. There's nothing they actually care about. And here's what I want to say. It's like with prison reform. That's a left-wing thing. Trump did a left-wing thing. They don't care. Who gave them credit for that? Van Jones one time? Nobody cares. The left doesn't care if you give them what they want. And this is what I'm starting to see on the right too, is that the right doesn't actually care about values either when it comes to Trump. They just want him in. The Second Amendment, they'll make excuses for, but if Mitch McConnell didn't, they wouldn't. So it's there's this weird battle going on where the left, they don't really have a sense of values that make sense. They're just fighting this eternal battle against the right. So they don't want to actually compromise. And when you do something they want you to do, they don't even care. You get what I'm saying? It's say Trump said, or DeSantis said, abortions are legal. You could have an abortion up until birth. You think Democrats would vote for them and be like, oh, this guy's pretty reasonable? They don't care. You know what I'm saying? They're going to say, oh, DeSantis did that, but he's still a fascist. He's still a tyrant. So the lesson to be learned is, do things for the right reasons and do the right thing. Don't do it with this idea that you're going to please the left. I even see, what's her name? Ann Coulter crying about this bill. He made a fatal mistake. You could look at polls and see that there's certain people that went pro-life that won the election big and certain ones that didn't. I don't think that's the specific thing that's doing it. Yes, that's an issue, but that issue matters more when a candidate sucks and they have nothing else to really draw from, and they're running bad ads and not doing a good job of convincing people. So that's what I think for sure, regardless of where you fall on the topic. There's no such thing as how can you please Kim Iverson? Just say, let the government stay out of it. Okay, so there's no line anymore, right? What if Kim's having mid-birth and she wants to axe the baby? Well, she'd be like, no, that's messed up. Well, yeah, of course it's messed up. That's why you got to draw a line somewhere. They don't want to. Then what's the point of even trying to help? How can you compromise with someone that doesn't actually believe stuff? And it's the two-party false paradigm uniparty. They've got it on lock. The left doesn't care about anything. They don't want to compromise. And when it comes to Trump, 100 million people think he's the eternal victim, and they don't care if he takes lobbying money. They don't care if he sells out to pharma. They don't care if he hires his enemies. They don't care if he's guilty of what he's accusing DeSantis of. They don't care if he falls short. They don't care if he's in on it. They don't care if he's friends with Newsom. They don't care if he offered Bill Gates a job. They don't care. The right really in some ways is not different when it comes to, they don't really care as much about their values as they do of winning, winning the game of the fighting the left, Alvin Bragg. It's dude, that's the biggest circus. It's so obvious. Trump gets arrested 36 times. He goes there, takes fingerprints, flies to Mar-a-Lago with a bunch of influencers selling t-shirts for $50. And then his fundraising goes up. And then CNN makes more money. Fox News makes more money. Washington Post makes more money. Trump goes up 30% in the polls. That's why you have to vote for him, because he made more money. And then people say, you don't know what it's like. And it's dude, everybody got locked in their house for 3 months while he was on television with Dr. Fauci, and he could move freely. You've already been treated worse than that in your own life due to the uniparty. and you're going to brainwash yourself into thinking you've never been treated worse than him flying to New York and flying back to Mar-a-Lago. Like, you've never had that done. There's people rotting in prison right now because they thought Donald Trump was a QAnon wizard because they spent too much time on 8chan and believed everything they read in a fortune cookie code, and a bunch of psyop influencer idiot guys who are brainwashing MAGA moms. Like, no one's felt worse than that. What about the dozens of people rotting in prison because they thought Trump had a magic plan? In reality, he didn't, But it was Pence, the guy he hired. He told Pence at the NRA meeting, he said, you guys, he was like, lay off Mike Pence. It's like, Trump just sacrificed him. He's like, it's his fault. And everyone's like, it's his fault. It's like, yeah, you just figured out Pence was a neocon, like one day left in Trump's turn, and now you turn and blame him. But you didn't notice that Pence was orchestrating the coronavirus task force, right? That, you never wanted to criticize that because he's a good guy until Trump tells you he's not. And then, nobody thinks for themselves. Nobody breaks outside of the box. And a lot of right-wing media is responsible. It gives you just enough to like get the story, like the border's open, that's not good. The left is crazy, that's not good. The right-wing media gives you just enough to like piss you off. But then when it comes to solving it, they never solve it because they're working with the people or they're just delusional. It's like, let's lay off the Anheuser-Busch protest, guys. We just realized that they donate to us. So now, you can do trans propaganda because, we really hate trans propaganda unless you pay us off. And then trans propaganda is really not that bad. I mean, it's like, what do you believe? I respect the hardline person sometimes more than the other person because it's like, what do you believe? What's your take on the First Amendment? What's your take on the Second Amendment? Like, do you care? Or is it just a show? It's like, it's funny, but I'm so in some ways grateful that this happened now because I know that the more that this happens, people are going to snap out of it. We have to understand, people who like Trump, patriots, conservatives, these people are ready for change. They're ready for something real. We're closer than we've ever been. People will, in my opinion, they will challenge Trump more than they did the first 4 years. So I don't think he's going to be able to do like even the Don, like, I don't think they're going to be able to do that for that long. It's not going to be as easy as before. I think people are paying attention, but here's what I want people to look out for. Look out for the victim story because this is the game that they all play. When there's a tragedy and a mass shooting, Democrats try to pass their gun control. When there's Muslims doing something, if that was even true, they blame Saddam Hussein or, there's always like a game to exploit your emotions to then make you the victim, them the hero, them the villain, and push an agenda that they've always wanted to do. So, if Trump gets in, this is my only thing is watch out for the victim story because if he gets power again, you get what I'm saying? Like, make him actually do something. Don't let him run around in circles being like, I'm the victim. The media is so corrupt. And people are like, oh my gosh, Alvin Bragg. I mean, a week ago I was going to vote for Ron DeSantis because he actually does stuff and he doesn't just blab about it. But this week I have to vote for Donald Trump because he's the victim of this new narrative that gave him record amounts of fundraising. It's like, this is literally people's thing. The polls were neck and neck. There comes this victim story. He fundraises off of it. He gets the money. He gets to play the victim. He gets to cry for another 3 months. He gets to fly to Mar-a-Lago and back and do a huge thing for all his friends. And people are like, I was going to vote the other way because I was tired, but now I have to. You have to because of one story that came out in the media. It's that easy to trick you. And I'm trying to challenge our side because I want us to be better because this is exactly how the Iraq and Afghanistan warred us. This is exactly how they, $1 trillion, 20-year war. This is the same thing they're doing. It's like they give you something you kind of want, pull out the carpet, and you still want to go for it. Like, in many ways, the base is so much more ready than they were 15 years ago under George Bush. In many ways, they're not. Like, I feel like people are primed and ready for a real president to do something, but in many ways, it's the same base that got fooled by George Bush, where they're like, well, he's so different, or it's like, I don't know. It's like we're at a fork in the road. We could go either way. We can get results. We could crush it. We could hold our politicians accountable. We could call out the lobbyists. We could call them out on both sides. Or we could play the Trump game for 4 more years and everybody could sit home and just play with themselves to the idea that Trump's going to arrest all the pedophiles, whether it happens or not. It's like, I don't know. I don't see that being the one, but it's like we're so close. That's what makes it so annoying. Like that people are so ready for the truth. And let me see. Someone said, "You see those lames that the Young Turks walking back their statements on DeSantis?" No, I just saw Anna Kasparian freaking out because she realized that like ESG was a lie. Did you guys see that video? Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks. She's like, she's a left winger, but she realized that like the gas stove ban is stupid. She's like, I don't want to curse, but she's like, Sank, freaking, can you believe? Oh my god, can you believe? It's annoying. I don't want to do my impression, but anyway, she basically said, Sank, I'll like dumb it down. She's like, Sank, why are we going to ban gas stoves? Like, what happens when poor people need a new gas stove? Like, where are they going to get the parts from? It's actually really smart. I never thought of that. Like, if you ban gas stoves and the production of gas stoves, and people have a gas stove that's there that they've had for a long time in their house and it breaks, now it's going to be harder to get parts and stuff. And Sank's like, I don't know about that. It's like, basically, it's like this left-wing woman is waking up to the reality of like her side's actually stupid, and she's like freaking out and panicking because like she realizes the ESG agenda is actually going to like destroy her pocketbook and make it harder for her to get resources. Like, yeah, it's kind of how socialism and communism ends. Like, you know, if you take away competition, it's not good. This is the same thing I say with Trump and DeSantis. Dude, the amount of people that are like, DeSantis should just get out of the way and Trump should just do it. No wonder you guys got fooled by Operation Warp Speed, the socialist scam, because that's like anti-competition mindset. No, Trump should be on stage with the best people and he should earn his spot and prove to me he's the best. He's the front runner. What's he so afraid of? He's so scared. He doesn't want a challenge. It's like, it's the same thing with stoves. If you have 100 companies trying to innovate to make the best product that people want to buy, that's a good system. If you let the government wipe out an entire industry and say you have to get an electric stove, that's a disaster. That's socialism. That's communism. There's a reason it doesn't work every time. It's because they take away competition and innovation. And if you watch the NBA, it's great. Well, somewhat great. It's kind of boring. But anyway, it's the best players. You know, the UFC, it's the best fighters. If these weren't the best people, nobody would want to watch. You know, that's competition. Everybody likes competition. It's what makes sports interesting. It's what makes everything interesting. Podcasting. Do you listen to the worst podcast because the government made you? Of course not. You listen to the best one or the funniest one or the most insightful one because you get to choose. You never want to let the government do certain stuff like that with products. Like, I guess if you're banning something super evil and terrible, that's one thing. But yeah, the gas stoves with the idea that they're harmful to people. Okay, what about the food you guys are green lighting now? Just the gas stove? It's hard to trust them. Is sports fixed too? Depends who you talk to. I don't know. I think the NBA, no offense, is like a cheesy league now. It's like 135 to 130. I don't know how much they're fixing it, but it's just boring because they don't play defense and they're all like, I don't know. I'm not interested in the NBA anymore. I like fighting. I don't think fighting's rigged like UFC. If you want to think it is, that's fine, but it's kind of hard to rig a mixed martial arts fight. Thank you, Marmar. Appreciate it. They canceled production of wood stoves this year. Yeah, it's stupid. Read a few. Someone said Trump proved who he was in 2020, a big pharma globalist shill, said someone. The funniest thing to me is like, you know, the number one product of the globalists, everyone talks about globalism. There's never been a crazier scheme than the vaccine scheme. And I understand the Democrats pushed it further, but like, if you think about globalist products, to me, the COVID vaccine is the number one globalist product ever. And Trump ran around the world selling it harder than Bill Gates. Like it was a MyPillow, hawking it with a Mike Lindell type mustache vibe. Like, and people, and the thing is, if people said to me, hey, Anomaly, I still think Trump's better than DeSantis. I still like him, but yeah, we need to challenge him a little bit. I would be like, all right, that's cool. I'm not that crazy about it. But like when people are like, Anomaly, you're so hateful. It's like, so you want to let the guy who sold the vaccine harder than Bill Gates, the number one globalist product ever, he hawked it like it was a infomercial. You don't want to challenge him. You're trying to wipe all the competition off the stage and blackmail them into getting out of the race like Ron DeSantis. Like, you don't want him to be challenged at all. You don't want to ask him questions. You don't want to go a little tough on him. You just want to roll out the red carpet so he can just get back into office. I'm sorry, but it's like, you're just as dumb as the left now. Like, it's laughable to me. It's like, why shouldn't you get scammed? You deserve to get scammed. Like, you're begging for it, you know? I'm not saying you got to hate him, but you want to wipe out all the competition and just roll out the carpet for him. It's insane, dude. A lot of people on the right are losing their minds over this guy. It's really sad, but you know, it's fun to like think that these things are going to happen and just ignore reality, you know? It's like, I don't want anything. I just think he'll do it. You're like, okay. It's a little weird. Someone said, Katarina said, one thing is these guys have big egos and DeSantis still wants to govern Florida. We still need the best governors possible to resist federal tyranny. All signs are pointing towards he's going to run, but you know, we'll see. I hear you. I just don't understand when I talk to people and they're like, oh, he shouldn't run. Like, why? I don't understand. Like, why should Trump not be challenged? I don't want to see Trump run against Tim Scott. Tim Scott's an idiot. I'm sorry. Tim Scott's a clown. He's not. And then some people are like, Tim Scott for vice president. Bro, Tim Scott is just Mike Pence. Like, you want Tim Scott as your vice president? Tell me you don't know anything without telling me you don't know anything. So it's like, I want Trump to face competition because these people should be competing for your votes. But there's people that are like, how dare DeSantis run against Trump? I mean, he should just get out of the way and let the vaccine man do his thing. It's like, why? Why should he go unchallenged? It makes no sense. I've cracked the code, though. I just don't, want to sound like a broken record. I get why people do it. I just don't think it's going to work. Let's see. Someone said Joe Biden needs to be in jail. Yeah, but he's in the White House instead, and his son is probably still traveling around doing whatever he wants. So in an alternate universe, Fauci's in prison. In this universe, Fauci works with both parties, was hired by Ronald Reagan, and is friends with Donald Trump. So, I like to cosplay too. It's like, I'm Pikachu, Pika, 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 right? It's fun, right? I'm Pikachu, I'm Pika, 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 right? It's like, see, now everybody's laughing. Like, that is kind of fun. I never thought I would. It's fun to role play and make up things that aren't real for fun. Let's all have fun. But this idea that, these people are getting arrested when in reality, our guy is actually just friends with them and goes harder on Thomas Massey than he goes at Gavin Newsom. Like, it's fun to think Trump's arresting the deep state, but then when you turn on the TV and he's like, listen, I'll never hit at Gavin Newsom. He's nice to me. We get along really well. And he's like, kick Thomas Massey out of the Republican Party. How dare him try to stop communism? I'm doing it. When I do communism, it's the best. Call it Donnie communism. Call it Donunism. Would make a shirt. I'm a victim. $50 shirts. Massive fundraising. Ooh, this is so bad. I'm rising in the polls against the meatball. It's like, it's fun to pretend like you're Pikachu, but when you see what's really happening and you realize that he's a lot nicer and more respectful to satanic Democrats than he is libertarian Republicans who tell the truth about communism, it's like you grow up. It's just like when I was in 4th grade, I thought I was a Power Ranger. I seriously did. Like, I don't know. It's just like I thought I was the Red Ranger, and then I hit high school, college, and then, it dawned on me and it was like, I'm not really a Red Ranger. It was hard. Might have shed a few tears, might have ran, might have had to throw my little putty dolls out. I just punch them, I'd be punching them, just role playing. But eventually, eventually people got to grow up. Are you saying that Sean Hannity could have lied to me? I don't know. What part of his CIA pin did you not pick up on? He wears like a little CIA pin. He's like, the left's bad, the border's bad. Let's, agree with every war that the neocons agree with. Back to you, Tucker. And Tucker's like, I disagree. And they're like, whoa, Tucker's left wing, whatever. It's fun. Mark Levin's like, listen, patriots, the only way to be a real Judeo-Christian is to go start a war in Ukraine. I'm Mark Levin, and we need to fight for Judeo-Christian values by Zelensky fighting Putin. Okay. Like, I don't know. Mark Levin's a straight shooter. I don't know what's good, Listen, I'm Ben Shapiro. Listen. Let's just be reasonable, okay? Let's have a reasonable discussion. Vaccines, black people are not getting the COVID vaccine enough, and it's really bad. And Louis Farrakhan, the anti-Semite Louis Farrakhan, is telling everybody not to get the COVID vaccine. Can you believe that? If they listened to me and my Judeo-Christian values, they would understand that the vaccine is really good for them. And Louis Farrakhan, the anti-Semite, how is he platformed to do anti-vaccine propaganda? And then 2 years later, Ben's like, listen, okay, I made a mistake, all right? And I'm like, listen, I'm glad Ben admitted that. Honestly, that was very, I was like, dang, Ben has done more than Trump has done. I used to love Trump and I despised Ben Shapiro. Still, I'm not really a huge fan of Ben Shapiro, but I respect that he semi-admitted that he was wrong. That takes a lot. Trump has never done that. He doesn't give a shit. Dude, he would put a vaccine in every one of his supporters. Be like, this is a good one. This is Daddy Trump's vaccine. They're like, oh my God, I feel like a cat. It's like at the end of the day, I don't even like Ben, but the fact that he has turned the corner on the vaccine and Donald Trump hasn't, that's not a red flag to people. It's laughable. It's like, what movement could we possibly have if that's not a red flag to you? How in the world do you ever expect to get any results? Because you just think if you like just sit and watch Sean Hannity enough that like Trump's going to do things. Can someone tell me that's getting mad at me? Like, what's the theory? Like, why are we going to get results if he gets back in there? Just because he's really mad this time and he really figured it out? Maybe I'm wrong. Matt said Anomaly's hella suspicious at this point. I'm hella suspicious because I'm like the only one not taking donor money, and I talk about Pfizer donor money and Anheuser-Busch donor money, but the people that just tell you what you want to hear taking the money, they're totally your friend, They're totally on your side. Stop the protest, patriots. Anheuser-Busch gives us money. It's okay if they make our kids gay now, okay? I mean, there's nothing like gay conservative beer. I mean, it's gonna be sponsored by the Log Cabin in 2 weeks. Caitlyn Jenner's gonna be running ads, and they're gonna be like, now this is some good old-fashioned transsexual beer, the American style. We almost let the left put Dylan Mulvaney on that beer can. Can you believe that? We got our gays and our transsexuals in here, and we're gonna do it right, MAGA style. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. Sean Hannity drank it. It seems pretty good. I mean, as long as they're going to wave the American flag, I don't care who you are, as long as you bleed red, white, and blue. I mean, get in my stomach, Bud Light. Is that suspect to you or is that funny? I thought it was funny, but that I feel like that's like the lane it's going to go. But I get it. Like, there's a difference between kids and adults. I understand that. I'm just saying it's kind of funny. Well, that's like the Log Cabin Republicans. It's like a gay. It's like our gays love the flag, their gays don't. And you're like, oh, okay. You're like, oh. It's just funny to joke about. I'm sorry if I offended anybody. Someone said Mr. Beast is teaching kids it's cool to be. Well, the weird part about Mr. Beast is I'm going to read his tweet real quick because I did think that was very interesting. I guess Mr. Beast, his co-host, turned into a transsexual or something. It was like a guy with like a family and now he's a girl or something. And let me just read the tweet real quick because it's very, very fascinating. So Mr. Beast responded and he said, yeah, this is getting absurd. Chris isn't my nightmare. He's my effing friend, and things are fine. All this transphobia is starting to piss me off. He said he's my effing friend. So he misgendered his own friend. He's like, how can there be transphobia if he's still a he? The only way it could be transphobic if he turned into a her. So the fact that Mr. Beast is like, he's my friend, how could they be transphobic? It's not transphobia. It's just basic man-on-man bullying at this point if you think he's a guy. If he's a woman, then you have a point. But it's like you can't transphobically misgender your own friend like a dictator and then act like you're doing some sort of activism. I don't know. It's pretty fascinating. Someone said, well, I like how he helped out 1,000 people with their blindness. He's very popular for a lot of reasons. I'm not here to knock his business model. He's a marketing genius. And his co-host or something just transgendered. It's gonna be a fun year for Mr. Beast and his PR department. He's probably low key like, yo, I don't got the logistics for all this, but I don't know. Let me see. Someone said Trump sold out when he didn't fire Anthony. It's not even that, though. I don't want to be a broken record, but Trump sold out way before Anthony Fauci. First of all, I get why people say that, but Anthony Fauci was hired by Ronald Reagan, and I'm not even sure if Trump can fire Fauci. I wish he did. Maybe he could, but he probably could have. But in general, Trump it's not even just Fauci. Above Fauci, Fauci's in something called the NIAID, the National Infectious Something Disease. You know, that's where Fauci, he's the head of the NIAID. The NIAID is only a sub-branch of the NIH and the HHS. The HHS, Trump has the power to put a person at the head of HHS. Fauci is a small fry compared to the position that Trump could hire. And Trump was going to talk to RFK Jr. He took $1 million from Pfizer, and then he hired a pharmacy lobbyist called Alex Azar, who worked for Eli Lilly. And Trump put a pharmacy lobbyist ahead of Fauci. Trump didn't just not, like, Trump's not delusional, like, oh, I didn't know. He's friends with these people. He's working with pharma. He's talking to Bill Gates. He's taking their ideas. He gave Bill Gates apparently a White House position, like, and Bill Gates declined it. Trump's not fighting these people. I know it's more fun to pretend like you're Pikachu fighting the deep state, watching Sean Hannity drinking Bud Light because Caitlyn Jenner's on it now instead of Dylan Mulvaney. It's fun, right? It's fun to hallucinate, and it's just like when the left-wingers dress up as furries. It's fun. It's fun to pretend you're a cow and go to a sex party or something if you're left-wing. But at the end of the day, you know, you're going to wake up the next morning and be like, I'm not a furry cow. I'm a human being. Like, where am I and where are my pants? You get what I'm saying? Like, the truth is the truth. It wasn't him not firing Fauci that made him sold out. He sold out years before that, and nobody cares. You're not going to hear any Republicans say what I just said ever. They sweep it under the rug. They cover it up. And they ride coattails for Mar-a-Lago meetings. They're professional politicians. They hang out with lobbyists. They hang out with donors. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about the country. They don't give a shit about the amendments. They're there for personal gain, connections, and rising the ranks in politics. And what I just said in the last 2 minutes is why all this stuff happened. That's the truth. Trump sold out to pharma. He put more powerful people ahead of Fauci. He works with Fauci. He worked with Bill Gates. He had meetings with them. He took that meeting with Bill Gates and put it into an executive order in 2019. All this stuff, I've done dozens of videos on it. The proof is there, and no one has ever proven me wrong because it's all provably true. But nobody cares because it's like, well, I'm the right and I'm going to fight the left. Doink, 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 doink. It's like, you know, okay, I get it. But at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be aggressive with it. Trump sold out way before that, and no one cares. And he's never apologized. He's never corrected course. He's probably going to do the same thing again. And the same people that are ignoring it are probably going to ignore it again. That's why I consider him the most dangerous candidate, because it's like, who's he going to put at the head of the HHS? That's above the Fauci. That's above the NIH. HHS is everything. You have a lot of power at HHS. If you put a pharmacy lobbyist at the head of that, you can't cry the victim. He's in on it. Oh, but I don't want to hear that. Well, then go find some idiot who lies to you, who hangs out at Mar-a-Lago. There's a lot of influencers that just hang out there. They're professional liars. Behind closed doors, they tell me, oh, I agree with you. In front of the camera, they're, you know, lying to your face. It's like there's a bunch of people who will tell you what you want to hear. You know, I watch UFC highlights and stuff in my spare time. Maybe you want to listen to someone who lies to you. It's just not going to be me. Speaking of UFC, I'm interviewing Beneil Dariush tomorrow for those who care. I'm not going to like make it a whole thing because I know this is a news show, but it's pretty dope. I know a lot of UFC fighters and I'm kind of getting into UFC media. I'll keep it like separate. I'm not going to like shove it down your throat if you don't want to hear about it. But if you guys don't know Beneil Dariush, a friend of mine, he was supposed to fight Charles Oliveira next month. Winner is probably going to get a title shot. He's on an 8-fight win streak, and his fight got canceled because Oliveira got hurt. And I got a big interview because everybody's wondering, like, what happened to Charles Oliveira? Why is that fight not going? So I'm super pumped. I'm not only talking to certain UFC fighters, but I'm able to like semi-break some pretty big UFC stories. So it's pretty cool. And by the way, Beneil Dariush is a Christian. He loves Jesus. He's from Iran. And you know, he left there, so he loves America. I'm going to ask him some cool questions outside of UFC because I know my news audience will like Beneil Dariush. He's an amazing person, super humble, loves God, loves America, doesn't talk a lot of trash, just fights and wins. So it's pretty dope. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Someone said Rogan was drinking Bud Light on his show this week. You talking about Joe Rogan? Yeah, I saw that. I don't know. Like, it's like maybe he was just trying to be edgy or something. But you know, at the end of the day, I'll just say this: whether you listen to me, Joe Rogan, Sean Hannity, whoever, you know, God gave you a brain, right? So I hope you like me. I truly do. I'm not here talking to myself, or am I? I look around my room. I'm technically by myself, but I'm looking into a camera. I know you're here. It's okay. I'm not trying to be weird with it, but you get what I'm saying. I want you to like me. I want you to agree with me. I'm not going to lie about it. But at the end of the day, God gave you a brain. God gave you a soul. God gave you the ability to cross-reference ideas. So take my ideas and put it up against other ideas if they compete, and be honest with yourself and see which one makes more sense, So that, whether it's Rogan or me, Rogan does some interesting stuff. He hosts some good people, but no offense, I don't go to Joe Rogan for political advice. I think he's interesting in the fight game. He's got a lot of interesting information, but I study politics for a living, so I don't, if I agree with Joe Rogan, I agree with him. If I disagree, I disagree. I don't look to him for like direction. And I understand that some people do, but at the end of the day, God gave you a brain and a soul. So if Joe Rogan does something you consider corny, or someone else does something you consider corny, whether it's Trump, me, someone else, you don't have to agree with everything someone says. And I think it would be awesome if everybody were able to kind of disassociate with certain ideas and certain things and make their own decisions. And that's the reason, not to bring it back to this, but the reason someone said he has sponsors too, of course. And you never know when you're at that level. Maybe he did it to be funny. Maybe he did it because he got paid. You don't know. I have no idea. But when it comes to Trump, I've never said I hate that people like him. I hate that. That's not it. What I don't like about Trump now is the fact that people don't think anymore. Like when I talk to people about it, they just say what he says and they don't even think about it. Like if you say that DeSantis is working with Karl Rove and I say to you, well, Trump's campaign worked with Karl Rove in 2020, you never even thought of that and you never even looked it up because you just follow what he says. Like people are becoming professional regurgitators, but if you're regurgitating someone who's not true, and acting weird, then you become annoying and weird. So, I just want people to think, whether it's Trump, whether it's me, whether it's Rogan, I want people to think about what they're saying, cross-reference what they're saying, and use their own brain, or else we just become like professional robots who are just, it's not going to work. And that's all. That's why it's most annoying, because it's like people aren't thinking anymore. And it's making the right really lazy. Like, one person that I'm really glad they're back on Twitter is Owen Benjamin. A lot of people, he's very controversial. He's unapologetic with his comedy. He does some stuff and everybody has an opinion, but on Twitter, he's super funny. And his takes are very he breaks through the two-party paradigm and just makes jokes about it. And it's nice to have somebody back on Twitter that's like that, because a lot of people I follow, it's like they fall for every false paradigm. It's like it's so generic and cookie cutter and just dumb, where it's it's fun to have somebody back that I'm like, oh, they see through that and they're making jokes about it, because it's like, here's a topic. Here's what the left wing thinks. Here's what the right wing thinks. And they bash their heads together. And I'm not playing middle of the road like, oh, I don't care. I have an opinion. My opinion's just not their opinion. I know a lot of people think I'm sitting on the fence. Sometimes I'm trying to do objective journalism. Sometimes I'm trying to weigh out both sides to come to a conclusion. But most of the time, I'm not being a contrarian just to be like, I'm not the left or the right. I genuinely don't agree with either side. The left is going insane. There's very few things I agree with them on, but the right just says what they're it's like controllable people. Like, here's the story. Here's what you say. Here's what you say. Bash your heads together for 3 weeks. And then next week, we're going to change the topic. And then all of a sudden, nobody cares about that again. You remember 2 years ago when everybody was talking about communism in Cuba because the media told everybody to during COVID, but the real reason the media was talking about Cuba was not because they care about communism, but because Cuba was not taking American COVID vaccines. So the media was pissed, and the media got pissed, and they're like, Cuba won't take our vaccine. And then right wingers were like, Cuba's communist. And it's like, when's the last time you heard a conservative talk about Cuba? Probably when the media told them to talk about it. It's like they're controllable. It's like complain about Cuba for a week and then never talk about it again. How much do you care about Cuba being communist if you never talk about it again? Jorge Masvidal cares about it because he's from there or he's Cuban. There's Cubans who really care about it, but a lot of these conservatives that talk about it, they don't actually care because they only talk about it when they're told to talk about it, And then their take is generic and doesn't even make sense. I don't think Cuba's a great country, but the media was desperately trying to get COVID vaccines into Cuba. So they got the right to be like, Cuba sucks. And it's like, okay, And then next week, what's the news story? We got to be less controllable. And if they can make us talk about a certain news story, we got to make sense about it. You know, we can't just like take the generic take. It's like, there's certain stories I want to talk about, but someone said you follow NPCs, and well, you know, most of the people I follow are people I followed from 2016 to 2020. So it's a lot of conservatives. You know, a lot of people I really like. I like them as people. I don't want to like upset people that I like and stuff, but Don Jr. follows me, and it's like, damn, bro, that's crazy. I appreciate it. I don't dislike him. I've never met him, but you know, it's like I don't agree with a lot of things that the Trump campaign's doing, but it is what it is. I'm not going to not say it. It's just like certain people I follow, I'll just like mute them or something, because I'm like, you know, I also don't want to live in an echo chamber. I want people to disagree with me. I want to see what everyone else is saying, but sometimes it's this balance, like how much do you really want to look at something you don't like, right? You don't want to live in an echo chamber, but I don't want Dylan Mulvaney in my face 1,000 times a day. So it's like, I got to mute people if they're just posting the videos all the time. It's like, I'll hear your take about it. I'll hear your boycott, but stop showing it in my face all the time. Have you ever seen me show that video of that guy, the Bud Light guy? Have you ever seen me show a video of them? Never. You know why? Because I don't think you want to look at it, and I don't want to look at it. So what's the point of making you look at it? It's not. I can explain the story without you staring at it for 30 seconds, and they're like dancing. Like sometimes they're like shaking their butt in your face, and conservatives are like, "I hate this. I hate this. I hate this." It's like you're the biggest promoter of it. What are you talking about? But you know, it is what it is. I still like people. I still try to connect with people, but I'm just out of the loop of like where other influencers are mentally. And if you followed me for a long time, if you haven't, welcome. If you have, you know, it's not like we haven't had these debates and conversations. It's just people just keep saying the two things on loop, and it doesn't actually make sense. It's not like I haven't heard that it's the same talking points over and over, but they don't make any sense. Karen said, love listening to you. You make the world a little less depressing. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much. I want to talk about, thank you so much, Karen. I want to talk about this event I was at real quick. Sorry, I'm like getting a minute 35 or an hour 35 in. I'm getting like semi-delusional, but I want to keep going. I was at an event called NAMM. It's in Anaheim. It's like a music convention. And I did some street interviews. I can't wait till you guys see the interviews. I asked people 2 questions. I said, which musician would you make the president? And what would you say to Joe Biden if he were here? I got some really funny street interviews with people. But at NAMM, you know, I was there, and there was this Christian group that was like screaming in a megaphone, right? They had the signs like you're going to hell, like the, you know, everybody here is going to hell type signs, and certain Bible verses and stuff. But they were screaming outside of a performance, and the performance, the only reason I went up to them was because I went out to watch this gospel performance, and I'm standing in the crowd, right? Like I'm trying to watch them, and I can't hear it because they're screaming, but I can't even hear the megaphone because it's basically like they're little children trying to interrupt the show. So I walked over to the guy because it was like a bunch of Christian street agitators that were drowning out the show I was trying to watch. And I said to him, I said, hey, I appreciate you guys. I'm a Christian. I love God. I love the Bible. I love Jesus. Why are you interrupting a Christian gospel performance? Like, why? I don't like, what's your logic there? So this was the conversation. I said, you know, why, like, how does that make sense? You know, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but how does this make sense? He goes, oh, you just don't want to hear the Bible, huh? And I'm like, no, dude, I love the Bible. I can't, you're acting like you're preaching the Bible and I can hear it. You're screaming in a megaphone. It sounds like white noise in my ear. And I'm trying to listen to like beautiful gospel music that's actually Christian talking about the Lord. And then we could like talk after or something. Like, I'm not afraid to talk about it. It's basically just like, I can't hear what you're saying and you're just being annoying. So I was like, I'm not afraid to hear the Bible. And I said, why are you ruining the show? And he said to me, well, I'm not ruining their show. They're ruining my show. This is my show and they're in the way. So to those who are agreeing with those people, listen, I like hard-nosed Christians that preach the hard parts of the Bible. It's just like they're acting like children. You know, I'm not talking about the verses they're saying or what they're saying. A lot of it was valid. But in general, I'm like, so you're going to pretend like it's your show. You just showed up to this show, noise canceling them, but it's your show. Like, they're lying. You know, oh, you're so honest by pretending like it's your event and they just showed up. Stop, dude. You know exactly where you were. So we're talking about it. And, you know, I basically was like, agree to disagree. Appreciate you, brother. And then I posted it, and a lot of people, said that's a little cringe. Some people were defending them, but I knew that posting it. I just thought it was an interesting dynamic. Two people on Instagram that agreed with it. I'm just kind of having the debate out loud. One guy said, they're completely right. They have a right to be there. It's their free speech. And anywhere that the gospel is preached is a good thing. It doesn't matter where or how they do it or how annoying they are. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting, because I'm not against the gospel they're preaching. I just don't like their tactics. So I told him, I was like, if I went to anywhere you're ever at and with a megaphone, you're totally fine with that? If I'm screaming stuff at events you're at? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, what if I went to a wedding, right? I bet he's a Christian. I bet he's been to weddings where they're playing music, and not even just gospel music. I mean, keep in mind, I'm listening to gospel music, which makes it that much more insane. But at a show, I guarantee this person's been to a family wedding where they play secular music. And imagine if I showed up with a megaphone at his wedding screaming at them so they can't hear the secular music. Would he be fine with that? Of course not. He would be really annoyed, and so would his whole family. But that's secular music. I was listening to Christian gospel music when they were interrupting, so it made even less sense. And, another thing that they do sometimes, because I see them at other events, I've seen them, I'm not exaggerating. I've seen them look at people and be like, you're going to hell, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. And I'm thinking to myself, if you looked at a liberal atheist and said, you're going to hell, that's one thing. I mean, I don't think that's the best strategy. I'm not into it, but they're looking at people that could be Christians. They're looking at people they've never spoken to. They're looking at people that could be more disciplined Christians than they are. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that doesn't have sex, doesn't do anything, and they're just pointing, saying, you're going to hell. So I've come over to them before, and I'm like, how do you even know who these people are? It's not like you're talking to them and they say, oh, I'm not a Christian, and then you say you're going to hell. That makes sense to me. But just yelling you're going to hell, dude, these people are idiots. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm not afraid of the hard parts of the Bible. They're making 100% of people hate them. They go to an event like this where gospel music could maybe bring someone to the Lord. They're being annoying, pushing people further away, making Christians look like psychopaths. And then if you're going to be hardline Christian, just be honest. It's honest to say you're going to hell, you don't believe in the Lord. It's dishonest to say you're going to hell just because I looked at you and I'm just going to assume I know who you are, even though I've never even spoken to you. Just by looking at you out there, you're going to hell. How does that make any sense to anyone, even the most hardline Christian who follows me? You think it makes sense for people to go with a megaphone in the middle of the street and point and tell people they're going to hell without even trying to filter who's a Christian and who isn't, and who's a good Christian and who's a fair weather one? They just assume that they're God, and they're like, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. They could be pointing at a pastor who's been a hardline preacher for 40 years, telling them they're going to hell because he's wearing a t-shirt. It's insane. But I like hard preaching. I just think if they really cared, that they would go to the event and talk to people, because you can be aggressive, or rather you could be assertive without being annoying. And this, people don't have to like you. And if you're a Christian, you don't have to expect everyone to like you, but it's do you really want people to come back to the Lord? Or are you acting like you're God? Are you telling people you're going to hell and you don't even know if they're a Christian? You're not even checking to see. You're just telling them. How is that smart? You're screaming at people, they don't like it, where you could literally go and stand there and say, hey, can we talk to you for a second? Hey, can we talk to you for a second? You're going to hell if you don't follow these according to our law. Or, maybe give them some soft stuff and then hit them with the harder stuff. There's a way that you could be hardcore without being annoying. So I just don't understand it. You get what I'm saying? It's I'm fine with what you're preaching. These secular music is going to hell. I agree. I think a lot of artists are going to hell. A lot of musicians are going to hell. But if you're interrupting a gospel singer, I know you don't give a crap about what you're saying, and I know you're not really there for the right reasons, and you're not really trying to save anybody. You're trying to play God and act like you know everybody. Where it's you're so sloppy with your work that you're literally ruining a Christian show, and you could care less. That just it's just corny. But interesting stuff. We'll see how the video does. I thought it was a fascinating little dialogue. Let me see. Someone said the only screaming people I see on the street are homeless drug addicts. Well, not to change the subject from what you said, but the other group that's annoying, what's the name of the Hebrew Israelites? These are another group where I'm not afraid of their message. I just don't like their approach. I'm not somebody that's going to call you anti-Semitic if you're saying something. Trust me. I think it's like the word racist. It's been used so much it doesn't mean anything because you just try to quash like conversation. But the Hebrew Israelites, they just go and stand there and they just start yelling at people. Like they just start yelling at white people, yelling at this. You know, if you want people to be like, yo, you're the real Jews, you can't just treat everybody like garbage and yell at them. So they're another one. They're just really annoying. It's not like I don't even care that they say they're the real Jews. It's like, that's fine with me, but they're just like annoying and loud. The aesthetics of it, like screaming through a megaphone when I'm trying to eat lunch and just yelling at random people, like it's not my scene, you know, but it's not the message that they're saying for me. It's their approach and just their energy. Same thing with these Christians. Like, I'm not going to stop. You have the free speech to do it, but I have the free speech to not like it. You know, that's what it is. Someone said the blatantly racist guys who call white people. I don't even like the word racist. I just think they have like dark energy. You know what I'm saying? They're just like, they're just going there agitating basically. They're going there just trying to like point at random people and yell at them. It's just annoying. Someone said, Matt said anomaly is either blind, stupid, or a straight shill at this point. Well, Matt, since I actually respond to questions and I don't take donor money like all the politicians you probably like fantasize about, but Matt, what part of what I said is wrong or dishonest? Because I'm genuinely curious. Like, what part of what I said is a shill? Like, does it make you mad that Trump took money from Pfizer and I don't take money from Pfizer? Are you mad that DeSantis takes donor money and I don't take donor money? Like, I'm falling for all this BS. What BS, Matt? I'll give you some time to like I'm falling for all this BS. What BS? Be specific. What part? Like, give me. There's got to be something. You can't just be like, you're a show. Okay, like what part of what I said was like the part that made you think that, and then you say like, I'm falling for it. I'll give you time. No rush. Frank said with a $7 super chat, I love your energy, but nothing online is ever deleted. Right now I'm enjoying and moving to your rap shouting, I like Trump. It's okay. I'm not mad at that. Thank you, Frank. I made that song from good energy. I like Trump. He was talking to the media. Everybody told me I couldn't like him. And that was my breaking out of like, I've already said I liked him online, but I was like, I like Trump and I don't care what you say. So feel free to listen to the song. Matt said, Reed, I've been saying it for over half an hour. F, red, and blue. Oh, you're mad at the Democrats and the Republicans? How do you not like my show, though? I go harder at the Republicans sometimes than I go at the Democrats. When have I ever said I love Republicans? They're amazing. They're like, this whole show has been explaining that they take donor money and sell out their own voting base and telling Republican voters to wake up. So how are you not? How are you not excited, bro? You should love my show. Someone said red, blue paradigm pusher. Bro, no one here thinks I push the red, blue paradigm. Literally no one. In fact, if you could go to like most influencers at my level, most people would say I'm too critical of Republicans because I don't give them a pass on like anything. So I don't know what show you're watching, but it's not the one I'm doing. Someone said, dude, they're all pushing a satanic agenda. What part of my live stream made you think that I said something else? That I was like, yo, I literally made a joke how the Republicans don't even care about the values that they claim for sponsor money. Like, what? You're arguing with something that never happened. I don't know. Where have I ever said something else? I'm glad that you feel that way because I agree with what you're saying. I don't know why you thought it was something else. Like, see, I can't please anybody nowadays. I got Trump people mad at me. I got people that don't like Trump mad at me. I got left-wingers always mad at me. I don't know, this guy mad at me because he thinks I'm pushing the false paradigm. One guy's listening to my I Like Trump song. You push all the propaganda they push. What propaganda? Give me one piece of propaganda that they push. Because at the end of the day, if Democrats say I like water and I say I like water, that's not propaganda. That's just what I believe. My beliefs line up with what the Republican Party pretends to do more than the Democrats at this point. So if there's overlap, it doesn't mean I buy that they're doing it all. It's just if someone says thou shalt not steal and I say it, it's not propaganda. It's just what I believe. Thank you, Jamie. I'll give him a few more, but I'm giving him time to like say something. Someone said, you think Anomaly doesn't push God? He certainly mentions his faith in appropriate amounts. Well, I'm not apologetic about it, but I'm not, this is not like a pastor show or anything. So I'm not trying to like, it's not my role. Eventually, maybe if I become, like if I get to a place in my life, maybe I could be a pastor, but I'm not going to role play one now. So I love God. I sell merchandise. I definitely just don't want to overdo it, I guess, for my news show. But it's like with UFC. I love UFC, but I don't talk about it every day because I know that's not why people are here. But, I think one day maybe I could like move into the woods and be a pastor. It's just today's not the day. That's not the show. Thank you, Michelle. Someone said, oh no, someone's pushing God for a change. This is my opinion though about it, because I like people that are hardcore. Like I'll watch a pastor that's like extreme and I'll be like, that guy's kind of fire. You know what I'm saying? If he's speaking the truth is the truth. So I don't expect everyone to be like me, right? God didn't make everyone to do the exact same thing. At least I don't think so, but I have no idea. My role is in the way I am and who I am at this point and who I've become. I know what made me more Christian, and I know what brought me back to God, and I know what opened the door for me to learn all this stuff. And it was people that were super moral, thoughtful, nice, and, led by example. And also, just the left going insane honestly really helped, because they just got so crazy. Like, I was like, oh yeah, like I could go on for a long time about my journey back to God. But in general, it's like, it wasn't someone screaming in my face with a megaphone. That never would have brought me back to God. Never. And now I'm further on the path where it's like, I could listen to what that preacher's saying and be like, I'm not mad at the words he's saying. I'm just saying in general, I don't like the approach. So to me, it's like, if I just said God, 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 God all the time to people, maybe people would come back to God more if I was cool and likable and convincing. But if I'm just preaching all the time and being annoying, it's like, it's not, it's, to me, it's like, at least for my lane, I'm trying to be light with it, because I'm not a preacher. I'm not a perfect Christian or anything. I'm not trying to act holier than thou. But I'm also not going to lie about it or be apologetic. So, that's my lane. And to me, that makes more people kind of figure it out. It's like if you're like a Christian conservative and you're super annoying and you're God, 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 but you're like a piece of garbage person, nobody likes that. You know what I'm saying? In fact, that's why most kids are liberal. Like, I look at a lot of conservatives who are preaching Christian stuff in politics, and they're just annoying and cringe, and a lot of them are fake, and a lot of people can see through it. So I don't think that really works, but I don't know. I do know with my political content, some of my biggest videos are always like the ones that aren't annoying. Like, it's like some people, they get inflammatory for views, but me, it's like, this is why Trump wasn't as bad as you thought he was, but I'm not even that type of full-blown person. And people are like, well, I trust you because you're not like yelling in my face to build a wall. I'll hear you out. And then they hear me out. And I've had left-wing celebrities message me and say, dude, I watched you trying to shake my head and disagree with you, but I couldn't disagree with you. So now I'm a fan. I'm still not a Republican, but I thought I was going to hate you and disagree with you, but I kept checking everything you were posting. You were right. So there's nothing to really argue about. And even my big videos in COVID, I'm not sitting here, and everybody has their own approach. I'm not trying to hate, but it was like I was sitting here being like, how can I prove this to people? I don't want to just say, oh, this is what's going on. And I don't like, okay, so I'm just supposed to believe this guy? No, I'm showing you proof. I'm showing you videos. I'm showing you videos of Bill Gates. I'm showing you articles. I'm showing you data. I'm showing you government, transparent stuff. So when you watch a 9-minute COVID video of mine, you could leave believing me. People aren't believing what I'm saying because they just like me a lot and believe me. They're believing what I'm saying because I'm showing proof, and I'm doing a good job to prove it. So by the end, if you watch the 9-minute video, it's not like, oh, Anomaly's a cool guy, I guess I should just believe him because he seems trustworthy. It's like, no, Anomaly's a cool guy who seems trustworthy, but he's showing me proof because he doesn't think I'm an idiot. A lot of people, politicians, news people, it's like they think people are stupid, or just like, oh, believe this because I said it and it's not even true. It's like, no, why don't I show you exactly how I figured it out so you could see it too, so I'm not just pulling it out of thin air. So to me, that strategy works really well with news. And when it comes to God and stuff, I don't think the hardline stuff really works as far as like for recruitment efforts, but it is what it is. Everyone plays a role. That's just not mine. And maybe one day I'll feel different, but I don't know. I have compassion for people. And I'll say this, like, how many of those street preachers, I don't know, but how many of these type of people, how many of them have been Christians for their whole life, good Christians? How many of them fell from the Lord and came back to the Lord maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Maybe a lot of people that are hardline, like a lot of times they screwed up worse than other people. Like they had a huge drug thing. They almost died and then they found God, or they went to jail and then they found God. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, you should have compassion where you wouldn't tell the drug addict to keep doing drugs. I'm not telling people to justify the bad behavior. I'm not telling people to go soft on sin, but have compassion for the sinner because that was once you. And if you want to bring them over to your side, you got to show them that you like them and show them that you don't hate them. You can hate the sin, but you shouldn't hate the person that was kind of like you 10 years ago. Someone said you were wrong. Maybe, I don't know. Have you ever, I'm not saying, hey, sinner, you're so great, you're liberal, it's so awesome, everything you're doing is right. I'm not saying to do that. I'm not saying to cave on your values, but I'm just saying have compassion for the vehicle. Or no, would you want people to scream in your face with a megaphone? Would that have worked for you? No, I don't know. I don't think it works, but someone said layers of ego must melt away, possibly. Could I move my microphone down? It's blocking you. Yeah, sure. At this point, I'm already in. Let's see. A hard story is usually the most remembered ones. Someone said Pelosi's a good Christian. Yeah, I don't think so. Someone said you could definitely be a pastor, politician, or a judge. Yeah, I don't want to be either, but in my opinion, I think I would make a good judge. I've always thought that, but I don't want to be a judge. You got to go to school and be weird, to make it to the high levels. But I think that if I could pick any position for myself, like in another life, I could have been the most honest judge. I really think that. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not even claiming to be. I make mistakes like everyone else. But when it comes to judgment, I really think I could be as honest as possible without getting interfered with ego or financial incentives. Like, I feel like I could listen to a court case and be like, all right. But there's some inherent bias that you can't even help. So everybody has something, but you know what I'm saying? Some of these like left-wing judges, it's like they're not even trying to tell the truth. They're not even trying to see through it. Everyone kind of has their angle on it when it comes to like federal judges, etc. But I would like to do that in an alternate universe, but it's too late for that. Someone said, fun fact, you never have to serve a single day as a judge to be a Supreme Court justice. I would want to go to law school though. Even if you don't have a degree, it would be smart to do that type of work. This is my theory that is going to make sense, but I can't prove it. I think a lot of politicians don't do that much because they don't know that much, so they're not even in control. For example, if you said, Anomaly, I think you'd make a great politician. You should be a politician. And I was like, oh, I actually want to be a politician. I would take years to study law. I would go back to school or take an online course. I don't want to go to school. But if you don't understand law, not just the Constitution, but that's why a lot of lawyers and law and politics is very even keeled. I would study, poli-science and, really learn how to pass a bill. A lot of people in Congress don't know any of this stuff. No offense. I don't want to pick someone in particular, but name someone new that just got into politics. Do you think they spent 3 years to learn poli-science? I bet a lot of people that got into Congress recently don't even know how to pass a bill or anything. So what do they do? How do they do it? Well, they surround themselves by a team. Say you're AOC or Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not saying they don't know, but let's just say they don't, right? They're both sides. I'm not trying to be rude, but say they don't even know law and poli-science because it's just not their thing, right? So how do you do that? You got to get people around you that know how to read rules, who can tell you. So, so it's now you're kind of, you're way more influenced by the people who know how to do this stuff than you're kind of like the face of it or like the personality of it. I think Trump is very much like that. In fact, to me, I don't trust DeSantis fully, obviously, for multiple reasons, but to me, he seems like someone who's pragmatic, whether you agree with what he's doing or not, who knows how to strategically get stuff done. Trump doesn't seem that way to me at all. I think he's funnier than DeSantis, more likable than DeSantis. I think in some ways you could even make the argument that he's more trustworthy in some categories, but I don't think Trump knows any of this stuff. I think he's hiring terrible people. They make terrible decisions and he never learns. Like, to me, DeSantis, whether you like him or not, I think he knows how to get policy done because he's actually studied and researched this stuff and spent a lot of time doing it. I think Thomas Massie understands this. I think Rand Paul understands this. I think a lot of people in politics have no idea. They're surrounded by lawyers. They're surrounded by political strategists. They're surrounded by people who understand poli-science, and they're just the face of it. So, how involved can you really be if you don't even really know how it works? That's my guess. It's like with social media. I'm not going to say the exact example, but I was in a meeting for something I was doing, and it was with a social media guy. And because I've done social media for 10 years, I've worked at companies, I've done it for myself, obviously. Like, I'm not going to call myself an expert at that much, but like social media, I'm a professional expert. I've proven the results for myself. I've beaten 99.99999% of the competition with $0 in budget. And I also have 10 years of business experience in it. So I'm an expert at social media. When I was in a meeting with a guy that was trying to sell my friend on social media, I told him afterwards, I'm like, yo, this guy has no idea what he's doing. And he was like, no, I think he does. And I'm like, trust me, bro. If you're going to trust me on one thing, trust me. This guy has no idea what he's doing. So he hired that guy. 6 months later, he goes, bro, that guy scammed me or whatever. He didn't do that much. And I said, I told you, dude, I know this. So the reason I'm saying this is in politics, you can hire people, but you can never know as much as if you knew yourself. I know social media, so I could tell this guy was a liar and he was not good at what he did and he was going to waste the money because I was asking specific questions because I know exactly how to do all this stuff. So I'm like, I asked all the question. I'm like, this guy's a clown, whatever. That's like politics. You can hire a person, but if you don't know the law, if you haven't went to law school, if you haven't gone a poli-sci degree or at least spent enough time studying exactly how it works, and you're just relying on political consultants and a bunch of, people that you're surrounded by, it's impossible to not get fooled to some extent because you're never going to be as keen to see through the lies as if you had all of those skills yourself. That's just the truth. So someone said your words mean nothing. Imagine listening to what I just said over the last minute and said, your words mean nothing. It's like I'm dropping some serious wisdom, knowledge that goes far beyond politics or who you like or who you don't like. And everything I just said is extremely valid. Imagine sitting there and being the person that's like, nothing you say matters. Then why even be here? Why even listen to me talk about this stuff if you're just going to like yell at the wall? I literally don't understand it. I can't relate to somebody who watches something for 2 hours and doesn't even want to hear what they're saying. It's shocking. But that's the point I'm saying. If I were to run for politics, I would have to study all this stuff immersely so I didn't get fooled. Anybody who does all this stuff and doesn't study that stuff is going to have to rely on somebody else to do it for them, and you're never going to have the same amount of power as you would if you learned it. That's my view. Someone said, is it possible he owns Anheuser-Busch stock? Could be. Yeah, it could be. But I don't like to throw out accusations that I can't really prove. But yeah, I mean, it definitely could be. But I don't want to be like, is it that? I think they donate a lot of money to Republicans, but who knows? Someone said, Anomaly, he wasn't talking about you. I got you. Thank you, D. Roscoe. I get it. You're fighting with someone else. Sorry then, brother. People fight with each other in the comments, and I think they're talking about me sometimes. It's like, how am I supposed to know when I'm doing a thing that you're fighting with someone else? Like, I don't mind you fighting with someone else. It just confuses me. I got you. Sorry about that. I very rarely block anybody, so it's not, you were never like at risk for getting blocked or anything. I was just commenting on it, so I'm sorry for the false. It's like, no, I was arguing with this other guy from 4 minutes ago. Like, how am I supposed to know that? Let's see. That's why you don't feed the trolls. Yeah, but I just like to challenge myself. So I think the reason I know a lot and I feel confident is because I challenge myself. Like, I've had certain people on the show where you could tell they haven't been challenged for 2 years. So it's like you bring up a thought to them and they've never even thought of it. I had an interview recently with a guy that I really like. I've been friends with for a while. We disagreed on some stuff. Certain things that I said, he never thought of. And he was like, dude, I never thought of that. So half the reason I argue or debate people sometimes in the comment section, not that comment, but one, I see it and I just want to talk about it because this isn't a scripted show, but also I like when people disagree, like not because I want to give them attention, but it's like if you're saying I'm a shill, I could just ignore it. I know I'm not, but I'm curious of why you think so. Like what part of what I said, it's interesting because then maybe he gets to a part and he said, here's what I don't like that you said. And then I could have a debate about it. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't like people who lie about me, but in general, it's like, maybe he says something that makes sense or makes a point of like what I'm just trying to figure out what part did you not like to get to. Someone said my mom wants to date you. Appreciate it, Seven Sons. I'm not really looking for moms right now, but I'll let you know if that changes. Probably not though. But I'm looking for grandmas. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. That was inappropriate. Sorry. I thought it was funny. Anheuser-Busch, dude, that's really funny. I've seen a lot of people say that in my chat. Anheuser-Busch is really funny. I mean, I don't like that everybody posts Dylan Mulvaney all the time, but I think protests are good. But I also think people should probably stop drinking Bud Light like 20 years ago. So there's a lot of dynamics to that. It's like Bud Light, you should have moved on a while ago. I don't know. Someone said, imagine Anomaly's your stepdad. Don't imagine that, please. Someone said, Anomaly, you'll be a great dad and a husband. Praying is how we win the world is our legacy. Thank you, Kirk. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but, I definitely plan to have a wife, settle down. I want a good amount of kids. I understand, like, your opinion only matters so much if you're not, giving kids. So, like, some people, they're like, this is my opinion. It's like, well, that opinion is going to die in 40 years because you're complaining about abortions and you're a 30-year-old, like 40 years old and you have no kids. So it's like, I'm not trying to judge. Everybody goes through life. Everyone does their own thing. But in general, I understand that kids and a wife is a power move. And eventually I want a lot. I guess I'm not trying to rush it. I don't want a divorce. I don't want to, I don't want to pick the wrong person. I don't want to be miserable for my whole life. I've heard a lot of people where they're like, yo, never get married. And you're like, I know what you mean. But it's like, I'm not trying to live in a relationship where the woman's like running circles around me and I'm like I'm not a virgin. No. I'm just saying in the last couple of years, I've, been selective and I'm not doing stuff like that because I want to have a wife. But in my 20s, I was not thinking this way. But in general, it's like, I don't want to get in a relationship that I don't like. I don't want to be miserable. Sometimes they're like, oh, my wife hates me. But it's like, I see the dynamic of some people's relationships and some are amazing and some aren't. And it's like, I want mine to be great. I don't want like one of these things where you like both don't even like each other, but you just stay together. Like, I can't have that. So, I want to have a lot of kids. I want to have a wife, but my dating process, I'm being more selective, more thoughtful with it, and definitely trying to, make the move when it's right, not when it's not. I'm definitely paying attention to every red flag and also trying to fix myself and be a better person myself. Cause I think you can't just like blame women or something, it's be like, oh, it's all them. It's like, it's probably you, if you're blaming women all the time. If you're a man blaming women all the time, it's definitely you. If you're a woman blaming men all the time, it's definitely you. It's not them. It's probably you. So I'm not mad at women or anything. I mean, I get along with women quite fine. Even if they don't know my politics, left-wing women, right-wing women, like we do well together because I get the dynamic and I'm not like mad at them. Some people are like, the women are like, it's guys are so corrupt. Guys are terrible. It's like, yo, if you fixed yourself, the whole world would change. Like, especially if you're a beautiful woman and you like hate men, you're like, oh, all the men. It's like, yo, you don't even know what it's like to be like an obese chick trying to find a husband. You're hot. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of options. You got a lot of options financially. You got a lot of options physically. You got a lot of options mentally. You got a lot of options. So if you're beautiful and you're crying about men, you must be terrible to the point where every good man is running in the other direction. And then you're attracting bad people. You're like, oh, I always date scumbags. It's like, well, it's your fault. I don't It's kind of like when Trump's like, Bill Barr sucks. It's like, you hired him. Mike Pence sucks. You hired him. Christopher Wray sucks. You hired him. General Milley sucks. You hired him. It's the same thing with a woman. She's like, my ex-boyfriends suck. You dated him. It's not like anybody else set you up with him and you just woke up in bed next to some guy. You chose him. I'm not mad at women at all. In fact, I like them. And they like me, you know? But I'm just kidding. Seriously. So, I don't know. People are like, dude, girls suck. Girls. And like a lot of the manosphere too. It's like, listen, there's a lot of weird women out there who do a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, there's a lot of food out there that you don't have to eat. Like if you're a guy that's kind of smooth, got their stuff together, like you don't got to play these women hate this and that. Like, bro, the real manosphere, it's just like you just get married and preach that, you know, the ones that are like playing women and stuff and telling guys all this stuff. It's like, you know, it's a little extra. I mean, yes, there are good things to do, I guess, if you want to get women, and there's things not to do, but the people that are like aggressively against women is just kind of cringe. But then it's also cringe when women on the left will be like, oh, he's against me because he wants me to do the right thing. Like, they're not against you. They're trying to tell you like that guy's trying to tell you the truth and you don't want to hear it, you know? So there's like a whole array of that. It's like a lot of women, and right-wing women, by the way, it's like they want to be empowered and they don't want to like submit to the truth. So they cry when a man tries to tell them the truth. You got like douchebags that are like manosphere guys just being annoying and, you know, giving people like weird advice. And then you got, you know, Tommy Lahren complaining about her ex-boyfriends and stuff. There's a reason I don't run a dating channel or talk about that type of stuff. It's because it's like I don't want to get into that, you know, unless it's like 2 hours into a podcast where nobody really cares. But in general, it is what it is. Like, you know, if you fix yourself, if you become a good option and you know, take control of your own life, I'm sure God will bless you with the right person sometimes, but who knows? The world is so big. I just don't understand playing the victim and complaining. Even if you had a bad situation, you got to make the most of it. You got to move on. You know what I'm saying? Like life changes when you change. Like everything's moving, nothing's stagnant. So it's like if you just dwell on bad things that happen to you, you're going to attract bad people because you're just like sitting in that world. Like there's so much going on. There's so many improvements you could make. There's so many things you could do different, you know? So I have like 0% victim in my body where it's like, this person did me wrong. I'm not mad at a single ex-girlfriend or anything. It's like, you know, it's like everything happened for a reason. It was either my fault or their fault. What can you do? You know, move on, be better. I don't know. People that complain about men or women, it's a massive red flag, especially when someone's like, oh, I can't do this or that. It's like, then get off Twitter. Stop complaining about it on Instagram. You know, like if you're a man complaining about women on Instagram and you're a woman complaining about men on Instagram, I'm almost 100%. I think it's your fault every time. It's like, if not, unless you're telling a story to help someone else or something, you know, there's all like exceptions. But for the most part, it's like, have you ever heard me complain about women? Do you know why? Because it's not a problem. And if it was a problem, it's probably my fault or her fault. And if it's my fault, I got to fix it. And if it's her fault, it's my fault for giving her the time and attention. You get what I'm saying? It's like, even if it's her fault, it's still your fault. Like, yo, my ex-boyfriend was a piece of garbage. I stayed with him for 4 years. Like, why? But that's not your fault though, at all. It's like, there's a lot of people out there that I would never sleep with. And it's not, you know, it's a wild world out there, man. But anytime I see anyone complaining about people, I'm like, psycho. No, I'm just kidding. It's like with beefing too in politics. I don't always do it because, you know, there's things that I don't like. But even when I talk about Ben Shapiro, like genuinely, I'm pretty nice about it, even though I don't like him. I don't trust Ben. I don't like his content. I don't, you know, I think he's a little sneaky. But, you know, I try to be as respectful with those things as I can. I'm like, you know, he's done some good stuff. I appreciate he did that. He runs a good business. You know, I think he's got some good values. I try to be as graceful as I possibly can be to tell people that I don't like this guy and I would never listen to him unironically. But I try to be graceful to show people I have grace. And also, I just try to be honest and thoughtful about it. It's like, I don't viciously hate the guy. It's just not my cup of tea. And, you know, I'm not going to him for political advice. With that being said, you know, when certain people, when they're being vicious all the time and they're being vicious to people with like no proof and like very little reason, they're the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some people that are constantly talking trash about everybody with no grace and no ounce of like, I try to do it with Trump too. It's like, I don't agree with what he's doing, but I try to remind people that I voted for him. I liked him. I don't always do it. Sometimes I might seem a little mean or something, but I try my best. Some people don't try at all. And then I'm like, they're a nightmare, you know? They're probably very uncomfortable with their own skin, and they're projecting their inner problems on everyone else, and they're probably a mess. You know, it's like I could tell the difference between someone who has like fair critique and someone who's funny, and then someone who's just like psychotic, you know, and you're like, okay, like Rachel Maddow, psychotic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if you don't like Trump or Republicans, but like you're insane. You know, it's like there's a deeper, but she's also a TV person who reads scripts. So is she really insane, or is she just like an actress? I have no idea. Amelia said, stop thinking about only you. I don't think about only me, but okay. I don't, why are you mad in all caps? It's okay. Wait, I'm going to read this because it just seems funny. Wayne the Pain said, the gay guy at the grocery store checkout, the cashier with the weird ponytail, was wearing full-blown painter respirator. It was pink. A regular face diaper isn't good enough for him / her. Bro, that's really funny, though. Dude, you could be a comedy writer. I mean, so your cashier guy had like a pink respirator on. I mean, bro, I feel bad at this point. I mean, I'm a little salty because of what they did to me, but I feel bad for like people still wearing masks. It's like how long are you going to do this for? You're going to do it forever? Do you really like it? Do you really want to do it? I don't think so, but you know, if you go to liberal areas, because I don't really live in a liberal area, so pretty much no one's wearing a mask. I could think of like one person that wears a mask all the time in my like worldview, but that's it. I went to Anaheim, which is like a liberal city in OC for the convention, and there were a lot more people wearing masks at like hotels and stuff. Like, dude, liberal world is a world you just need to get away from. Like everyone else is living their life and they're still wearing masks. They're still doing it. And I had some weird Uber Eats experiences out there too. It's like, dude, Anaheim's like Los Angeles. It's like, it's falling apart. And it's weird because Disney World's right there. So these cities, man. And the problems are starting to leak out too. We're not going to be safe. It's going to get weird. Things are going to get weird, and either people are going to wake up or not. But in my opinion, like, we need a disciplined leader eventually to actually do stuff. Cause like, you know, being politically correct and taking like Anheuser-Busch money it's not going to work. You know, we definitely need to have somebody who like puts their foot down. Cause like this country's getting really weird. And yeah, I'm sure it's always been weird, but it's hard for me to tell because, see, when I was younger, I was more oblivious. So you're right. I might be delusional. Not like literally delusional, but like when I was 23 to 28 and I was in LA, was it better? I think I know for a fact certain things were better because there's certain things I could look at. Like I used to walk down that street to work, and now that street has 30 tents on it. And when I was growing up or when I was in my 20s, that street didn't have 20 tents on it. So certain parts of LA, I can objectively be like, no, this is definitely getting worse. But in some ways I was just younger, so I didn't pay attention as much. Whereas like, you know, when I used to go to NAM like a couple years ago, I wasn't really, I don't know. It was nice. It was nice, way nicer than where I lived in LA. So I just thought it was really nice. Like even if there were a few crackheads, it wouldn't have really thrown me off at all because I lived in LA. I used to work by MacArthur Park, if you guys know where that is. I think it's like pretty heavy, like Hispanic gang territory, but I used to take a bus, walk there 20 blocks a day or 10 blocks a day to work every day. I never really noticed anything, but maybe I was just oblivious because I was young and naive, you know what I'm saying? Or just like whatever, put my head down, walk to work. It definitely has gotten worse, but maybe, I don't know. I'm going to go on a limb and say Anaheim was always sketchy, but it's getting worse. That's my guess. Same with LA. LA was never amazing. Like it wasn't perfect. It was fun. It had cool, but like it's all getting either slightly worse or more bad. Like if you had 2 homeless people, now you have 20. If you had 20, you have 40. If this was sketchy to 10%, now it's 40% sketchy. You know, if there were like 1 or 2 crackheads outside of, you know, Disney, now there's like 7 or 8. Like the zombie economy is definitely growing of like crackheads and stuff. But so let me see. Someone said capitalism's working as intended. Well, I don't know if I would blame capitalism, but I think, I don't know. I think capitalism doesn't work if the corporations get all the money and they become immoral. But also when Donald Trump does Operation Warp Speed, I'm not trying to just keep harping on this, but that's not capitalism. Capitalism would have been every pharma company competing to make a vaccine that everybody wanted. Socialism is when they fund it and buy it and it's free because you just paid for it with your taxes. So I don't think, I mean, I know like left wingers think right wingers are so like the left wing sees it as like the left wing is like corporate, what's it called? Capitalists, and the right wing is corporate capitalists. And I know the left winger thinks like, oh, they're both capitalists and they're both lying to us. And then the right wing thinks like, oh, the left wing's socialist and the right wing is like, you know, free or something. I don't see it as either. I see both parties are socialist, both parties are big government, but also both parties do capitalism when they need to for money reasons. So I see it as this fusion of capitalism and socialism. I don't think we have free market capitalism. I know left-wingers would agree with that, but to me, the Republican Party is a socialist party. They're just capitalists sometimes, just like Nancy Pelosi is for bank accounts. So I think both sides are crony phonies. David agreed with me. Thanks, David. That's who made the point. They're both kind of crony phonies, but, you know, the system only works if people are moral. I think this is just my personal opinion, but if you had just socialism and just capitalism and you could pick one, I'd pick capitalism every time because it allows for competition. But in my opinion, the truth is if you had moral socialism with 100% moral leaders, it would work. If you had moral capitalism with 100% moral leaders, it would work. It's just since we don't have moral leaders and the world isn't perfect, I would rather freedom from the government and, you know, I would say capitalism and the option to like imagine if this was China and I started a business and they just stole all my money and they said, you can't run a business because you don't work with the state completely. Like America's not that bad yet. It's getting there. It's getting weird, but America's not that bad where like the government will seize everything you have if you compete with them. It's not great, but it's way better than like really crazy countries. You have to admit it. I've been able to do well. Has it been perfect? No. Have they not tried to do certain stuff? Sure. Everybody sees the censorship and stuff, but America's better than that. So I get where left-wingers are coming from. In a 100% moral society, socialism would work. In a 100% moral society with moral leaders and moral people, capitalism would work. This isn't a moral society. Socialism will screw you over quicker than capitalism. Every time they do big government stuff in an immoral society, it goes bad because there's no competition and people are not allowed to, you know, start businesses, compete, leave their house because of a virus, stuff like that. So, you know, the world is not perfect, unfortunately. So I would rather capitalism than socialism because I think it's a better option. Someone said, keep us up to date. Are you fighting and staying in Cali? Are you planning on moving? Thanks, Frank. I don't see myself here forever. To be honest, I don't have children and I'm not scaling my business to an extreme amount. So California, if I were to have kids, it's a hard place to raise kids. It's a hard place to scale a business. I haven't done any of those things. So if, you know, at a certain point, I think I'm probably going to leave, but this is my take on a lot of the country too. I understand that certain places have better policy, but the country's not perfect. Like if you go to Louisiana, it's red, but New Orleans has a lot of crime. If you go to Georgia's red, but there's a lot of crime. You know, you go to Florida is nice, but you know, depends where you live. Like the hoods are on top of the nice places. They're right on top of each other. It's like you don't have any space in Florida. You know, everything's on top of each other. So, you know, I see like the problems all over. Yeah, you could get a cheaper spot, but Florida's getting crowded and it's got weather and stuff. But, you know, it's just like the country's not perfect. Even in red states, like, I mean, Dallas, Austin, these are not utopias. And I understand there's some nice Republican areas, but there's also some nice Republican areas in California. So to me, it's like local. It's like how effective has your community been in keeping out crime and theft and stuff? The policies of California are garbage, but to me, it's like I've visited certain parts of Florida and other states, and I'm like, this is not better than where I live. So, I know California gets a bad rap because the governor sucks and the politics suck, but it's also, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best states, as far as you got mountains. You got, I could see the ocean and I could see snow on a mountain in the same view. California is beautiful. It's one of the best states. It's one of the best weather. Everybody wanted to come here. Now everyone's leaving because it sucks. I'm not running. The only reason I would leave is if I couldn't afford it or it just made more sense to raise a family somewhere else. So I just, I feel like people leave California and they try to act like California is so bad. The truth, and I'm not being rude, it is bad in some ways, but the truth is people are not leaving because California sucks. It's one of the best states. It's one of the most desirable places to live in the world. People are leaving because they can't afford it, or people are leaving because they just found something more affordable. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's because people can't afford it. Or 9 times out of 10, it's just their money's not going. Like, they'd rather save hundreds of thousands of dollars and move somewhere else. Very rarely do people leave because it just sucks. Like, I mean, if you live in LA, it sucks, but you could just leave LA. People go to like LA to Austin or LA to like somewhere else, but the actual state is amazing. It's just the politics suck, the cities suck, but here's the thing, like, is New Orleans really great? No. Is like Miami super clean everywhere? Miami's a cool city, don't get me wrong, but it's like, depends where you live. You need a lot of money to be, if you have a lot of money in Miami, you could live somewhat safe. If you don't have money in Miami, you're not living in a safe area. This seems to be how the country's working now. So like Colorado has bad politics, but I love Colorado. Colorado's amazing. Even some of the liberal areas are super clean, super safe. Breckenridge, super nice, super clean, super safe, super gay. But, it's not like Los Angeles. There's not crime everywhere because it's rich and it's remote and crackheads can't get there that easily because they don't have skis and a Dodge, Caravan. So we'll see. Someone said SoCal is Mexico now. I mean, half the country is Mexico, but it's just like, I don't know. I think if you really want to avoid everything, you could move to like North Dakota, Like, these are the places that people are really going to run to when things really hit the fan. Rural places in North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, I guess like Utah, the Mormons or whatever. But there's certain states where it's like you could go and it's going to be safer because people can't bear the weather and it's not as like desirable to be like a crackhead at. Someone said Alaska. Yeah, there's land all over the country. Like, I'm not one of these people that fear mongers. Like, some people say, oh, it's America's going to shit. Here's the truth. It's kind of going to shit, but it depends. Like, there's a reason things are so cheap when you go to South Dakota. It's because it's not easy to live there. You know what I'm saying? It's not like there's people doing meth. There's great people there also. I'm not saying everyone's doing meth, but if people wanted to live there more, they'd raise the prices. The reason they're so cheap is because there's a lot of land and everybody doesn't want to live there because everyone doesn't have the resources and the discipline to live there, or they just don't want to. So this is my take on things. Like, certain places are still more desirable, but if things get crappier and things get overrun, people are going to have to move to the woods, and I'm not necessarily opposed to that. So it's like, if things get so bad I have to leave, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go to North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho. I don't know, live rurally. Cause at the end of the day, like, I don't want to use a false statistic, but I'll just guess like 90-something% of America is just like open land. Maybe that's probably not right, but you get what I'm saying? Like, you have a city in California and you drive past Palm Springs, and from Palm Springs, it's very open, to like, Arizona, it's all open. There's nothing. You know what I'm saying? California is mostly land. Arizona's mostly land. South Dakota's mostly land. Idaho's mostly land. Like, the country is mostly land besides like certain states that are super crowded. So even if things go to shit, there's always going to be somewhere to go, in my opinion. I think that someone said everyone's doing fentanyl in SoCal. There's a lot of drugs in SoCal. I didn't mean to just pick out South Dakota. No question. There's a lot of drugs everywhere. The whole country is doing way too many drugs. I'm just saying, it's like some people want to like move in the middle of nowhere and they're like, this is going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be better aspects of it, but it's tough. It's going to be harder to get to a store. There's certain things that you took for granted that you're going to realize like, wow, that was actually really convenient. I didn't even realize how convenient that was until I don't have it. So everywhere has its pros and cons, but my prediction is not like, oh, we're all going to die, everything's going to go bad. It's like crime is going to get crazy, and people are like, left-wing policies are going to fail. Right-wing, we don't notice what's going on is going to fail. And people are going to have to go somewhere else because I don't know. I think the Democrats are making everything worse and the Republicans are just leaving the floodgates open, and they don't want to have certain difficult conversations around crime and how this stuff's going on and how to stop it. So, it's like the only way to really get away from it is to just get away from everything. It sucks that it has to be that way, but, there's been worse things in history. I think my take on how to stop it would be certain communities putting their foot down. I know it's not going to be popular, but getting a good community and being like, we're not doing that. We're not listening. We don't care what you think, I like what DeSantis is doing with the heartbeat bill. Even if you don't agree with it, then just don't go there. There's something appealing about that to me. And as much as I love California, if they do that eventually, like if you really hate this, then leave, I'll leave like millions of people. The only reason I didn't leave is because I went to one of the most Republican areas in the state. And it's not even like living there, It's like if you live in Austin, it's not the same as if you're living on a ranch in a red area. And if you live in the bluest city in Florida, it's nothing like living in a red part. It's like that's just how the country is. It's more about local than it is. But if California gets even crazier and does something like super, super, super commie, and they say if you don't like it here, leave, it's actually not really a bad thing. It's like, okay, I'll leave. And I like Republicans doing that. I know it might not be great politically, but there needs to be a conversation. Like I don't hate left wingers and I don't hate right wingers, but you got to be like, listen, what do you want? You want this? Okay, I don't want this. Let's just be honest about it. Let's stop pretending. You want that? I don't want that. I want this. You don't want this. Let's separate. Let's have a political segregation of sorts. What if we can do it community-wise, we got to do it community-wise. And if we could do it, if it's got to be statewide, then it's got to be statewide. I understand, but it's like, we got to just agree. And it's not really a bad thing. Like if Kim Iverson wants to go get abortion somewhere, or she wants to pretend that, then she can go to another state. There's nothing, she doesn't have to go to Florida. It's not bad. You're not going to miss her. And also the weird thing is she was like, oh, all these kids are going to grow up in foster homes. So that's her angle. It's like, I want more abortions because if these kids grow up in foster homes, they're better off dead. It's like a weird argument. Like I understand what you're talking about. And she was like, oh, I wish your 18-year-olds get pregnant, conservatives. And I was like, I wish you get pregnant, Kim Iverson, because if you got pregnant, you're in your 40s, you would have a different take on everything. You know what I'm saying? You getting pregnant would change your whole mind on this topic, and you'd probably see it a little bit differently. So it's like, just like you wish an 18-year-old gets pregnant, I wish you get pregnant. That's a better option. But in general, she's just like, well, the foster homes are going to be overwhelmed and there's going to be more crime. It's like, so you think outlawing abortion is just going to, a bunch of like killer orphans are just going to run around killing people? I mean, I get what she's saying. Like maybe there's some truth to it, but it's just like a weird take to have. But anyway, I think this is healthy. Like I don't want to fight with Democrats all the time. Even when people come to my county and stuff and it's like, they're so Democrat, it's like, you could go to LA County and everyone will agree with you. There's something healthy about that. It's like, I like it like this, then go there. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't do that here. And if like the state does something super crazy where you got to leave, it's like, oh, this sucks. But, I don't know. Like it sucks. And I know a lot of people are going to have to leave places that they don't want to be or whatever, but or they want to be, but isn't this like a start to like, hey, I don't like, cause left and right are so different. Let's try it. Like, I'll take Idaho, we get it. And you can't call us anything. We're going to do exactly what we want to do. It might seem a little crazy or extreme. You do that over there. New Hampshire, everybody wants to be libertarian. They say the police suck or whatever. Try it in New Hampshire. Give them the whole state. I don't care. Let the whole state be libertarian. Let them try. No cops. And, maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they get overrun by gangs and then someone else has to come in and, take it over after they didn't realize that, someone strong would take over anyway. And, there is a power dynamic to humanity. I do think that everybody should be allowed to like try a little bit, try to do it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I don't know. How long are we going to fight? Just like, yeah, I don't agree with you. Go to Los Angeles County. Yeah, I don't agree with you. Go to Idaho. It's like, all right, I guess I got to go to Idaho. I didn't want to, but and then I live around people who agree with me, and you guys have crackheads, and you know what I'm saying? Like everybody's crapping all over the streets, and you're going to gay pride parades with poop on the streets, and you know what I'm saying? And like everyone's wearing masks. It's like crap everywhere, and you're like, see, this is what we wanted. And it's like, it would be awesome. Not that wouldn't be awesome, but you get what I'm saying. Left wingers would not be able to sustain, I don't think. But it feels like they're going to drag down the whole, like everything's going down if we don't like have this. And I'm not saying like you have to make it like so dramatic and be like, we're having a national divorce. Like I don't know how to legislate it, but I'm just saying like you do that here, we'll do this here and just stop. But I don't know if that's possible. Someone said, didn't TikTok steal from you? Kind of. I had $800 or something in my bank account, my TikTok, like all the money I earned from all the views I got, and they just canceled my account, so I never got the money. So I don't know how that works, but they won't answer. So yeah, ban TikTok. I'm totally biased on that now. I'm with the boomer Republicans. I'm like, ban TikTok. I'm like, no, I mean, it's not that bad. And then they ban me, and I'm like, yo, the CCP's out of control. I'm like, they stole $800 from me. CCP. Why'd you take my money, CCP? I was never out here hating on you. You know what I'm saying? I like Confucius. LeBron James sells sneakers there. I thought it was all good. You take $800 to me, bro, I'm going to turn into Mike Pompeo overnight. I'm like, you know what? We need Taiwan. First, all I wanted was a TikTok. All I wanted was $800. Now I want Taiwan. No, I'm just kidding. They're going to see this. Please don't play this in a Chinese board meeting. They're going to be like, this guy, I don't want to go to China, but I don't want to be banned from China. I don't know. It's not like I've ever been there, but I don't need a whole government hating me, So it's a joke. It's a joke. It's okay. I want to do my John Cena. I didn't mean that. I did not mean that. Jokes aside, though, I don't like blame Chinese people. I think Chinese people are kind of cool, and I don't hate them. And I'm just mad at TikTok. They stole my money. So if the CCP could talk to TikTok, get my money back, you know what I'm saying? We can work it out. But until then, I'm Pompeo. I'm going full Pompeo. No, I'm just kidding. Someone said, don't take Taiwan for Coco Chow. It's so funny how no one cares what Taiwan wants. It's like, I want Taiwan. I'm America. And they're like, I want Taiwan. I'm China. And Taiwan's like, what do we want? It's like, shut up, Taiwan. We're arguing over who's going to own you. It's like, are there any Taiwanese people that have any say in this or no? They just like, it's like they're like a plot. They're like in this plot and no one gives a crap about what they actually think. It's like, what do you think, Taiwan? And they're like, well, and someone puts their hand over their mouth. They're like, no one gives a crap what you want. It's America versus China. You're in the middle. Deal with it. Like, well, I mean, I guess we don't really care. I mean, it's whatever. We just want to make computer chips and, please don't hurt us. Like, I heard a lot of Taiwanese people like America. I don't know, but that's what Americans are telling me. I don't, it might be propaganda. Taiwan gets no say. I'll take it. You know what I'm saying? Do a little run around, 3 weeks later, world peace, Kim Jong-un stuff. No big deal. Someone said, you're funny, poor Taiwan. I met one Taiwanese guy. Honestly, I was at Art Walk one time and like he was a friend of a friend. He had cool sneakers, Sometimes Asian people have cool sneakers and stuff. I'm not trying to stereotype, but it's a cool stereotype. Like, a lot of Asian Americans and like just Asians in general, they just have like fire fashion sense. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're going to like a lunch meeting and they pull up in like all Adidas, you know what I'm saying? Dressed like Run DMC. It's kind of fire. I'm not mad at it at all. I'm fully complimenting. Do not mean to stereotype, but I like it. Anyway, he had really cool sneakers, you know what I'm saying? And I asked him, I was like, what? He said he was Taiwanese from Taiwan. So I was like, I got to ask you, bro, I'm not trying to get overly political because we're at an art thing, but I was like, tell me about Taiwan. And he went on he's like, okay. And he went on like a 30-minute rant. And he pretty much said nothing. I'm not saying he said nothing, but it was basically like saying both sides. He talked for 30 minutes. And after the 30 minutes of him talking about Taiwan, I was like, so do you want America to take it over or China to take it over? And that's when I realized that no wonder they're getting taken over, because they really don't have a stance. It's like, I was like, no wonder America and China are fighting over you, because there's like 30 minutes of him educating me on the history of Taiwan, what he thinks. He still goes there. You know what I'm saying? He's talking. He's very knowledgeable, very smart guy, very nice guy. 30 minutes later, I'm like, bro, so do you want America to run Taiwan or China to run Taiwan? Because that was the original question. And he was like, I don't even remember what he said. I want to say he was like, he sees both sides of it, but I think he seemed to think he wanted America to run Taiwan a little more for whatever reason. But he, it's like, yeah, with that attitude, no wonder everyone's taking over. You gotta believe in something. Imagine if you went to Texas and you're like, yo, Texas, do you like guns? And like every gun-toting Texas was like, I don't know. Like they talk for 30 minutes. Like, what? It's like, you're like, so do you like guns or not? And they're like, well, it's a tough time. Texas would have no guns if that's how Texans feel. The reason America has guns is because people are like, yeah, I like the Second Amendment. They're not, it's not like a 30-minute runaround. It's kind of like Canadians too. Like Canadians can be really nice sometimes, but they'll be like, well, it depends. I don't know. And like that's why Canada's not America. There's pros and cons. I'm not saying like Canada's bad, but I feel like Canadians are way more like chill. They're like, yeah, Justin Trudeau, he's all right. I didn't vote for him, but whatever. You're like, all right. I watch the Canadian debates and they're just like, hey, what do you think about climate change, eh? And then it's like, the Republicans like, well, and then they're like, climate change is real. And I'm like, the Republicans were like the Conservative Party was like talking about like ESG type stuff. And I'm like, dude, this sucks. Like there's no option. The one guy like Maxime Bernier, he was like the only semi-real one. He was like, you're all globalists. And he got like 3% of the vote or something. I was like, dude, Canada's a lost cause. I mean, we might as well send Taiwan over there. You guys can hang out and talk about not doing much, but I don't know. Someone said Canadians are excellent ballet dancers, legit. I'm not trying to crap on Canadians. There's thousands of amazing Canadians. I just met someone Canadian recently. Like I like Canadians. I'm just, there's obviously like talented singers. I feel bad where you're like, there are good ballerinas from there. I'm like, I know. Of course, there's a lot of very smart, great people from Canada. I'm not saying they have no redeeming qualities. I just think they're super soft when it comes to like politics. It's a super soft. It's way softer than American politics, no question. That's funny. You're like, they do have some good ice skaters or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's not like I said, all they have is Tim Hortons and poutine and throw the whole country away. I didn't go that hard at it. I do like Tim Hortons and I do like poutine, but I also like a lot of Canadian people. I think they could be sweet sometimes, but no, it's just funny. Like, Drake came from Canada. Eh? We're not all bad. I'm like, yeah, I know. You guys play hockey. I get it. There's a lot of good stuff going on up there. And then there's Justin Trudeau. Maple syrup. Yeah. But then I just seem stereotypical. I'm like, Canada's not all bad. They have maple syrup and stuff. Then I sound like it'd be like, dude, I don't hate China. I love lo mein. I don't hate China. I love General Tso's chicken. How could I hate China? It's like, okay. Dude, Japan's cool. I mean, Japan's all right. It's like, I don't like the country, but tempura shrimp's kind of fire. Like, if I said that, you'd be like, what? You're like, dude, you're like, French people make good croissants and stuff, but besides that, the whole country deserves to be invaded. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, everybody does something good. That's why we love everyone here, right? Everyone's got pros and everyone's got cons. There's more than just General Tso's chicken, okay? There's also beef lo mein and, beef and broccoli. So no, I'm just kidding. Someone said, I like Chinese checkers. Yeah, let's turn this into a session of us talking about how not racist we are. And someone said, I like baguettes. I like Chinese checkers. I like French fries. Let's do that, guys. We'll be like when Trump's like, I don't hate China, okay? I don't hate China. I sell to the Chinese, okay? You're like, and then he's got the taco. He's like, I got the best taco bowl. Happy Cinco de Mayo, okay, folks? Who does it better than this? And you're like, he makes a point. You're like, when Trump said build a wall, you're like, I did feel the racism. And then he talked about Mexicans and said there were fine people on both sides of the wall. And I thought he was a racist, but When he pointed to that Trump Tower taco, I thought to myself, how could this guy be a racist when he's got a taco at a Trump Tower? I got to register Republican and vote for him. And that was the day the Democrats stopped hating him. Someone said, hey, dude, we have snowboarding up here, but super weak politics. It's all good. You know, America has pros and cons too. We've really exposed ourselves. It's tough being an American now because we used to think we were like so cool and so free. And then like the vaccine mandates came around and now Biden's still like terrorizing people coming into the country. We took a huge L. You know, it's very sobering for the American ego. We're kind of soft. It sucks. But I don't, you know, it's all good. I want to say real quick too, before I leave, we have the shirts that I have now that's Big Farmer over Big Pharma, or what does it say? Big Farmer, not Big Pharma. I said Big Pharma one time and stumbled and said Big Farmer. And then I was like, oh, that would make a funny shirt. I did it live, actually, because I was like, yo, Big Farmer. I was like, no, I mean Big Pharma. And I was like, oh, there's something there. So I made a shirt and I photoshopped my head on a clip art farmer because it was funny. So Big Farmer, not Big Pharma. Check out those shirts at dreamrare.com. And we also have God is Great sweatshirts. No joke. I wasn't even going to buy these sweatshirts because I don't know, they're expensive because it's so much material. So out of everything I buy, those cost the most per volume. It's not even close. It's like 3 times as much the other. But whatever, I sell them for more. But I was like, I don't know if I'm going to bring the sweatshirts back. But I kept getting messages and like emails. And people kept saying, Anomaly, I love the God is Great sweatshirts or the Dreamwear sweatshirts. It's the best sweatshirt I have. It's the most comfortable. They're made in America. No joke. It's the most comfortable sweatshirt I have too. It's like fuzzy on the inside and it's just a great sweatshirt. So I got so many compliments and people saying they wanted it that I brought it back. So we got the God is Great sweatshirts back. Good material, made in America. Seriously, best sweatshirt I have. We got the God is Bless hats, the beanies, everything, but 2 new things. I know I've been slacking on the new stuff. We got the God is Great sweatshirts back. They haven't been here for a year or around a year. I don't know when I got them last year sometime. And then Big Farmer, not Big Pharma shirts, made in America. The shirts are 100% cotton. Sweatshirts are definitely made in America, but I don't know like the material breakdown of it, so I can't really speak on it now, but I just know they're comfortable. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, dreamrare.com. Check it out. I had a fun time and I'll be back soon. It's crazy. Like I'll take like a 2-day break or something. Like I went to a convention. And by the way, I'm not even taking a break. I'm networking. I'm filming. I did like a 4-hour interview with my friend and I did street interviews. So I'll come back like 3 days later. People are like, yo, I missed. And I'm like, man, I work so much that if I go for 2 days, people think like, oh, where did he go? It's like if I take a week vacation, it seems like a year, but it's all good. I appreciate that people care. Means a lot. Thank you guys. And dreamrare.com. Check out the new stuff. I think that the sweatshirts will sell out at some point. I might get more, but I don't know. We had 100 something. So if you want one of those or you ask me, they're back. Thank you guys. Have a good one. I'll be back soon. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, Freedom versus Tyranny shirts, Stay Blessed long sleeve, God is Great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk for $5 a month. You can help support me. Support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com. So check the links below in the description or just type in on any browser, stayintouchwithme.com, all one word. You'll find my email list, put it in there, and it's the least annoying email list you'll ever be on. I barely use it because I don't like getting emailed every day or every week. It's annoying. So I don't do it. Stayintouchwithme.com. It helps me take back some power away from big tech. Telegram, t.me/dreamrarechat or @dreamrarechat. Due to censorship, I post all my live stream and videos there. Sometimes I have some bonus content and I try to give people a heads up when Facebook or YouTube won't. DreamRareChat at Telegram. My Instagram is @DreamRare. Thanks for everybody following there for shorter content. And DreamRareLinks.com, that's DreamRareLinks.com, has all my stuff. My podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, my music on Spotify and Apple, my Rumble page, my BitChute and Gab page. All my links are found at DreamRareLinks.com. Thanks for watching, folks. God bless you. You already know I'll be back with more content soon.